Okay. Call today's meeting to order. It's the June 24th, 2024 meeting of the Riel Community Committee. Extremely long agenda ahead of us, though not in this first part. So I'll do the land and water acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Brian Mays. I'm the City Councillor for St. Vital Ward. I'm chairing today's session, joined in the chamber by Councillor Allard, who has a matter to attend to in the afternoon, and Councillor Chambers is here as well. So from St. Boniface Ward and from St. Norbert, St. River Ward, respectively. Joined as well by Diana Skirsky and Rebecca Ford from city staff here, as well as city clerk staff. So, and I think Mr. Kowalik will be with us for the long haul that is the public hearing session. So, Madam Clerk, where to next?
Two things. I would need to get a motion for the minutes from May 27th, please.
Moved by Councillor Allard. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
And as a matter of housekeeping, we have our one addendum report. That's item 7. It's a plan approval as well as a delegation request for that item. And we have a new business motion from Councillor Allard, if you would like to suspend the rules for all of those 3 items.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Chambers. All those in favor? Aye. That's carried.
Perfect. Then we're ready to proceed.
All right. So we do have some delegations. This is not the public hearing marathon that will be coming later. This is the just delegations on our first 7 items here. So first up is Harvey Manouk speaking to Councillor Chambers' motions, I believe, both pertaining to the Louis Riel Library situated near Dakota Community Center and on Dakota.
Good one.
You'll be there in about.
I've been there. Yeah.
You'll be right by there in a couple hours. So.
I got my first Russian grammar book. Yeah, tried it. Like for real.
I gotta start trying to learn Albanian. I think I need a hobby.
Ooh, that'd be. Dang. Yeah, there's a few glyphs, and sometimes.
It's going to be hard because I can't read with these glasses. I only use them for
My favorite function.
oh, I see. So I have to rip this off.
Isn't that an odd? I had this conversation about 40 years.
That one and that one. Okay. Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and speak today. I'm just going to go very quickly, because given the time that we have, and I don't want to take up too much time. Let's go very quickly through the agenda, which will be about the Louis Riel Library, who I am, the Runsfeld Matrix, the evolution of the library, history, exterior and interior renovations, and a conclusion and summary. So So just very, very quickly, the Louis Riel Library was constructed and completed in 1989. Park Realty Limited was a developer and project manager during the construction. Park Realty at the time was a commercial and residential developer with real estate assets across the city. The crowning achievement with the portfolio remains the Louis Riel Library. It's a legacy asset for us and provides a lot of pride given how it's used and accepted in the community over the last 30-odd years. I'm a former resident of Garden City. I'm an alumni of Jefferson Junior High and Garden City Collegiate. I use libraries at both Jefferson and Garden City. Libraries are very important to me. I was old enough to remember when the West Goldonan Library opened with great fanfare. I'm a graduate of the University of Manitoba and McGill University. I use those libraries. I use the libraries at the City of Winnipeg, University of Winnipeg, and Downtown Library. I use now the libraries in where I live at the moment in Toronto. Also borrow books on my Kobo digitally, and I also use the library online borrowing system a lot. In 2020, I became a Passive House certified tradesperson and credit libraries with my development as a general contractor. Sorry. So the Rumsfeld matrix, and when I was looking at this, how do I approach this? I was looking at it more so of known knowns and known unknowns. And I also looked at this from an external or exterior point of view and an internal and exterior point of view. So the dictums of the matrix are really known knowns, known unknowns, etc. We know that the library exists and is being used by the community for education and other activities. We know that climate change has impacted the way we make decisions about where we spend our time. We know that the climate has impacted our energy consumption. We know that carbon-based pricing is here and getting more expensive. We know operating costs are moving up, not down. We don't know what is in store for the climate going forward. We know libraries need to be more inclusive. We know libraries will continue to be used by many users, will be diverse. Patrons will be diverse and differently abled. Accessibility is important. Finally, we don't know how libraries will evolve over time. At the moment So right now, the evolution of libraries, I remember when I would go up to a library and ask for a book and write it on a piece of paper. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Write it on a piece of paper. And then the librarian would come back with the book. Eventually, it became index cards, and then later with the Dewey Decimal System and the LC classification. I'm sure some of us will remember those. Also at the same time, then there was microfiche and then microtape. It's evolved. There's computers, there's the internet, there's digital library, 3D printers. So computer access and research, support groups, educational events, book reading, socializing, meeting rooms, play-based learning. A lot of things are going on in the library, and that's where the evolution is coming. So the demographics are teens, seniors, differently abled, families, young children, babies, service dogs. When I was doing my research, one of the things I came across was an article, and someone was quoted by the name of Philip Phoenix Grime, a librarian in Delaware, and he said, libraries are the heart of a modern community. So libraries really are more than just books. I put this slide up, and I'll just quickly go over it, and I'll talk a little bit about it in essence later. But the International Passive House, which is based in Germany, building science is evolving and is very data-driven. Their goal is to build resilient, durable buildings with long lifespans of 50 to 75 years or greater. When I was looking at this, looking at the project, I was looking at it from a point of view of an external or exterior renovations. What we have now is a 35-plus-year building with 40-year-old technology constructed to building codes that existed at that time without consideration for climate change or severe weather swings. New technologies will eliminate energy waste and lower energy consumption. Principles of energy retrofit would entail exterior insulation, air barrier, triple pane windows and doors, renewable energy such as geothermal, heat pump system, and if we decided to go to a net zero, it also would have solar panels and an array called a PV array for net zero for that. The goal is dramatically lower the carbon footprint and meet the City of Winnipeg's climate action plan. To me, I look at this as the base building is the objective, energy efficiency and accessibility. So a fun fact is, we did a quick analysis here. Just with geothermal and heat pumps, it would reduce energy use by 282 million BTUs and a 94% decrease in CO2 emissions per year, which is basically went from 18 tons to 1 ton. And that's just one part of that's one part of it. So you have air barrier, exterior insulation, triple pane windows, and then you have your renewable, sustainable resource that powers the building.
fuel is used to heat the building?
I don't have that information.
Okay.
This was just based on the square footage of the building done by Ed Lorenz from GeoOptimal, who did it for us. So I looked at future possibilities for the external or exterior. So I'm just going to quickly go over this because there's only a couple things that are very important, is green building materials and energy efficiency. The reason I bring this slide up is because libraries are evolving, and we also know that AI is evolving, and it's becoming more prevalent. This was generated by ChatGPT with all the information that's in here. So if we flip over to the next page, I think that some of them is correct. Some of the ones that I have not highlighted, not highlighted, they were more geared towards the internal, or the interior use. The exterior use, some of the stuff is, yes, it is. So green building materials, smart glass, and energy harvesting, I think, is a possibility. Acoustic engineering is definitely. Accessibility and inclusive features, very much so. And AI-assisted wayfinding, which is something we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, was more interior-based. For the internal renovations, the library continues to, in my view, libraries continue to evolve. And the predictions today for future use of libraries may be wrong and are likely unknown. Libraries are community-based gathering spaces which require proper space planning, i.e. flex spaces for future interior use. Spaces need to be adaptable, accessible, with hygienic air, inviting to all people, especially those with barriers, sensory processing, mobility, language, etc. Demographics also evolve, and they will play a key role in the community and how it views and uses the library. Earlier I said International Passive House has lots of, looks at durable projects lasting 50 to 75 plus years. So the fun fact of an interior renovation was undertaken, I believe, in 2010, 14 years ago. We would have 3 or 4 iterations of the interior in a 50-year period of where we would have a durable and sustainable building if we changed the exterior. So that's where my focus has been really on the exterior. So if I go back to your earlier question about ChatGPT, I just looked at some other areas in energy efficiency, green building practices and materials, resilient infrastructure, building with resilient materials and systems that can withstand unexpected global events and natural disasters, climate adaptation, design with climate change in mind, incorporating features that enhance durability against extreme weather conditions. Future-proofing the design, use a modular design approach that allows for easy expansions and modifications, wiring and network capability for the internet, advanced security, implement surveillance cameras, access controls, and emergency preparedness plans. And then finally, I thought about this the other day, was alternate energy sources such as EV charging. So when I looked at, we're going to lower our use of energy, but why would we not think of having an EV charging?
Okay, do you need a brief extension? We have a long day ahead here.
No, I just want to go right to the conclusions. It would be very brief. I apologize, I didn't realize that. I thought I had 20 minutes because there's a second one that's coming on. So I will just quickly conclude.
Allow 2 minutes.
Sure.
So moved.
So I think that the exterior work is essential for the future use of the library. And I have a fun fact on this last page. I just lost it, sorry about that. But it was a picture of Buzz Lightyear. And Buzz Lightyear's line was infinity and beyond. To me, the build out of this library to enhance it for the next 50 to 75 years and greater is, in my opinion, infinity and beyond. So I'm here just to discuss that. I was here to discuss what the next steps are and how we can play a part in this, and I have some thoughts on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here. So to Councillor Ellis' point, you haven't had an energy efficiency rating done on the building?
We just looked at it very, very quickly over a quick phone call and just said, where would we be right now if we change this over to geothermal and heat pumps? So there hasn't been much dialogue and hasn't been enough detailed analysis to get us any further than that.
So did you ask questions with respect to what because it's the city that is leasing the
Correct.
property from you, in terms of what their monthly or annual heating costs would be and cooling costs?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. I have a very good relationship with the senior leasing representative for the city of Winnipeg, and we just recently amended our lease rates with them. And I had a long talk with him, and he was saying that the operating costs are very high on the building. He didn't tell me what they are because it's a net lease, and we wouldn't see what those operating costs are, and he didn't share those with me. He did say that it is very, very high, and it would be something that they're constrained on the library side with their own operating budgets, that they would be their energy person on the inside of the library, who he approached about discussing changing turning this into more of an energy efficient building, was very much on side with it. But I don't have a number. That wasn't part of it. What I think we would be wanting to talk about further would be, how do we move this forward to get better analysis on the outside of the building, what it would look like, what work would we be doing, what would the energy efficiency look like as we do our ratings and do our analysis.
You mentioned in your presentation potential to use ED chargers
Yes.
for electric vehicles. One issue that, I'm presented with as the councillor from time to time is the parking issue. Dakota Community Center is right there. Anytime they have tournaments or different events going on at their community center, parking becomes a challenge, especially for those that are utilizing the library and not Dakota Community Center's services. How would charging stations help or hinder potentially parking if parking spaces are limited right now?
It's a very good question, and thank you for that. I don't know if the charging stations would be right in front of the library. We know that Dakota is used quite often, the field house, the arena. The ability to move the charging stations and tie into a geothermal system I think would be relatively simple and easy, and it doesn't have to be located in front of the library, where a lot of problems come in, as you know, Councillor Chambers, for parking. And I've talked with library staff about that. If people are coming to the library, and it shows by Edison Energy that by 2050, 50% of cars will be electric in the United States. I think there's a charging station further up on Dakota. Mm-hmm. I think that they're going to be more prevalent. There's probably not enough of them. You will be having people who are coming to the library who are there for 2 or 3 hours, would like to charge their cars. I think people also will be liking to charge their cars as well when they're there watching a hockey game or a field house. So I think, to me, it makes some sense to have it. Where we would put it is unknown, but it would be something that should be dialogued, because I think it's going to be important in the future.
And this is more of a did you know question, but did you know that the church right across the street, Meadowood United, is undertaking a geothermal project as well, and there's potential to tap into that loop. I know that the provincial government, under the prior provincial government, they were providing, I think it was a $3,000 rebate, up to a $3,000 rebate for geothermal conversion. Are you aware, and have you had any conversations with Meadowood United Church?
We've had conversations with them. I believe we were in a meeting with them at one point about 8 months ago, I believe. I know that they were looking for fundraising to put this geothermal in for them. We did have a dialogue about a horizontal drill over with geothermal and tie-in. Since that period of time, up until just recently, there hasn't been any other dialogue with them. I know that Ed Lorenz has had conversations with them as well, and we are looking forward to having further conversations with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Just one
We've got a
question.
12-hour day ahead of us, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And just so I understand properly, though, you're a private group and you're talking about doing energy retrogrades for the library, which is leased by the city. Is that like fundamentally?
Fundamentally, that's correct. I'm one of the shareholders, along with my sister-in-law, who will be carrying this forward if we can go forward
Okay.
with it.
That's all. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Okay.
It's not a great week, in my view, for the climate action plan here with the Keniston vote coming. Frankly, the only way the Keniston math hangs together is if we do none of what you just said our goal is in terms of shifting to electric cars. Literally, you're cheering for two different outcomes. Go electric cars means we don't get the purported savings on Keniston, so what you have to do is cheer for nobody converting to electric cars to get the purported savings from the last reduction of gas consumption. So, anyway, I know there were some retrofits to this building within the last 10 to 15 years. It was closed for a period of time. But yeah, this debate, we had a report about investing in buildings and energy savings, and the city staff identified some buildings, I think ones that we owned. No money at all was approved to do that, though. So, as I've said in this room before, we're not stupid. We realize, you know, if you invest X now, you can save more later. The trouble is getting the X to invest now is been impossible around here. So the debate continues, I guess. But thank you for the presentation.
So may I ask one question?
Sure.
If you don't mind, please. I believe the motion is looking at a report to come back in 6 months. We would want to be involved with it. It's just the matter of dollars expended on our side without any kind of written confirmation that we would be looking at moving this forward. So I would want to be in a position that maybe we can further that out on the motion, or how do we tie that in together to make sure that the city and us, as we move forward, are on the same page.
I don't know.
The one data
It's
point
a
I'd like to
budget.
know
It's a budget item.
would be how many meters square natural gas that the building is using.
Okay.
That would be the one thing that would allow me to evaluate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So David Grant is up next on report number 6, left turn signal southbound St. Anne's Road and eastbound perimeter. There's David. Welcome, David.
Is his feed frozen? Looks like his feed is frozen.
My feet are frozen. He's in motion. Let's go, let's go.
No audio.
Jesus.
All right, Mr. Grant, I've asked you to unmute. There we go. I think we can hear
Here
you.
we go.
I did, and I got muted again. Anyway, thank you. There should be a guideline to assist politicians and engineers to make decisions objectively. There are such rules for four-way stop signs. Please ask Public Works and staff to develop a similar guide for adding lanes and signal functions intended to reduce occasional congestion. If enough person hours of time can be saved per month, a capital expenditure of X dollars can be justified. When initial designs do not handle traffic flows long into the future, as in now, there will always be pressure to add lanes or signal functions. This pressure should result in an objective response, not an emotional one. If not for the four-way stop guideline that we have been using for a few years now, we might have thousands more of these impediments to travel. Every plea to a councillor might result in another four-way. An example is westbound Sandusky at Waverley. One lane, so if a car is westbound or southbound, the northbound traffic stream must wait, and it tends to be a long light. A second lane was not needed a decade ago, but it is now. But the engineers studied it and found that the total person minutes of delay did not justify pouring a new lane. When hundreds of folks sit waiting every day, those folks will apply pressure to the local politician, which is you guys, who will call for changes to the related infrastructure. A good guide can make everyone look good. 100 cars waiting even 2 minutes has a cost. An 8-minute trip that stretches to 22 minutes because of congestion has cost for the traveler, but also in terms of fuel wasted, as Councillor Mays pointed out. and they need not be. And I will let it go at that because you do have a busy day, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Grant. Admirably brief. On we go then to our next delegation.
Sure, and we've suspended the rules so we may hear David Hill of Streetside Developments on report number 7, which is the plan approval, 357 Grey Heron Drive.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here mainly just to answer any questions about our plan approval. We're seeking approval today for 11 building duplex project in Sage Creek on Grey Heron Drive. This is a fairly straightforward bare land condominium with modest size 1,400 square foot attached units. I'm mainly here, as I say today, is to answer any objections or concerns. We appreciate you getting us on the agenda today. We're anxious to get our building permits submitted for the project. So I'm mainly here to address any questions or concerns about the approval.
Yeah, thanks to the planners for getting this onto the agenda. There was some bad noise there for a while, but we got that sorted out. So next, couldn't get closer to the DSFM school, I would say. This is adjacent to the school proper.
Correct.
Okay. And, yeah, so there's no rezoning, no variance, no conditional use here, we're just.
Right now, there's in play is a sound attenuation line at the back. And we've had the support of Public Works on a variance if we needed to move the houses forward if our sound attenuation study turns out that there is an issue with the amount of sound and the line restrictions. So we're just waiting to hear back on that report. We're willing to move the houses if we need to, depending on the report results, but otherwise we have support of the Public Works for the zoning, the variance for moving the houses forward.
Okay.
That involves only a handful of houses, one on each end.
Oh, okay. Good. Any questions?
Are there any other mitigation considerations in terms of noise attenuation, like berms or fences or anything like that?
There is a berm in play, and that's the unusual thing because the preliminary results are showing the further the houses are moved back away from the public street, it's actually quieter. They're finding out now with the most recent studies, so that's why they're just confirming the positioning of this line. Of course, the line is critical for us because we have to know to the owners, we have to inform them if they can build anything on the back of the houses. We plan to offer sunrooms, so we want to make sure that we're completely upfront that the city is on board, Public Works, and we can get our permits for the structures at the back. But it appears if the houses are moved back, it isn't going to be an issue, but we haven't seen the report yet.
And just for clarification, what decibel level are you working with in terms of?
I
what's
couldn't answer that.
acceptable? No?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah, looks like I'm the fourth different counselor to deal with this and its journey through City Hall. If there are no further questions, thanks for coming down
Okay.
today. We'll get to this fairly soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, that concludes our registered delegations. If you'd like to enter into report number 1.
Where is this coming from?
This is from Property and Development. I believe that we have Ms. Savage joining us via Zoom if there's questions about this report.
Oh,
Where are the streets? Is that because of the war change boundary?
yeah, this is,
I had to Google Bobolink.
Bobolink? Mm-hmm. Oh, they're like endangered or threatened, and my mother talks about them a lot. And
someone want to move this then?
I'll move it.
Given the length of the day. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried. We're on to the Chambers section of the agenda here now.
So traffic study at Aldgate Road and Twickenham Circle. I think, if I remember correctly, Councillor Mays and I attended the last developable street in River Park South, which was Vogan's Run.
Indeed.
A couple of years back. Right behind where that street is situated, there is a park in John Forsyth. play structure, sorry, at John Forsyth Park. And right across the street is Twickenham Circle. This park is very much well-used, and residents are concerned with the amount of traffic that is attending the park. There is no crossing signals to calm traffic so that kids and their parents can move back and forth to this park. So it's, I've drafted this or tabled this motion to get a traffic study done to determine whether or not we can get a rapid flashing beacon or some other traffic calming measure to allow the safe traffic of kids and parents back and forth to this park.
I know this park because I got the funding from the joint venture to do that play structure, so I know exactly. There were concerns when it went up, and it sounds like there's still concerns. So sure, I support this. Councillor Ellard,
Yeah.
any?
No, it's, I'll support.
Okay, moved by Councillor Chambers. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
And item 3 is the gravel road maintenance south of the perimeter, also yours, Councillor Chambers.
Yeah, so, the areas of Vermette and Saint Germain, granular roads have been an issue or the bane of concern for residents in that area, especially with the weather that we've received this year with respect to the amount of precipitation that we've had since the snows melted back in March, April. The continual precipitation rainfall has had a serious impact on the granular roads. Drainage has become an issue in many of the areas, resulting in soft conditions for the roads, the granular roads. In addition to that, the South Perimeter interchange project at St. Mary's Road, there are concerns with the berms that have been erected that it has caused water to pool on properties directly south of that interchange project in the Saint Germain area. So it is a culmination of all of these issues that have the ire of residents in the Saint Germain area. The ditching that is to be done on an annual basis. After the winter time, there are pinch culverts that need to be fixed and remediated so that water flows properly, allowing for better drainage, allowing for better roads. This is a matter of rain, drain, and sustain. After the rain, it should drain properly and sustain the roads in passable condition. So I'm seeking, this motion seeks to ask the public service to work with the area residents, work with the province and ACON to identify the issues that are causing much of the concerns that the area residents are experiencing, especially this year, and the high amount of rain that we received over the last couple of months. I believe that there is a better plan that could be made to address the issues and make sure that these roads are passable conditions after any length of rain that occurs in the city of Winnipeg.
I don't know if Councillor Ellard has any comments. As is our tradition here, we move things along. As Councillor Ellard has said recently on one of mine, well, I'll pass it today, but I'll speak against it at the next level. I'll pass it through today. Why we would prefer gravel lanes in one ward over, or gravel roads, Freudian slip there, gravel roads in one ward over another, I don't know. I had this for 7 years. Constant complaints, horrible conditions, drove it with Jim Berezowski, trying to get something done. But if you look at the map right now of the servicing, all of these have had some servicing this year. There's not a single ward, not a single lane in my ward has been touched. Not a single gravel lane. And my ward has more than anybody else's. Nothing done because it's too wet. So why would I vote for, let's pour time, money, and energy into these gravel roads and we'll just let the lanes which we'll be coming to in a few short hours here for a discussion when we get to Inman. Why would I do that? Why would that be fair to the people I represent? It wouldn't. So, I mean, I'll vote for it today, but I'll probably come to Public Works to call it into question. So, if there's no further debate, we'll call the court.
We got some. Not, we got some.
All right. You've got the second most. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Louis Riel Library 1.
So this one is this is routed to Community Services, number one here, and again, speaking to the need for libraries to reflect, contemporary standards, modernization in terms of their use. Libraries, in our last budget, we approved to have a more consistent opening of our libraries. The natural gathering spaces for education, for socialization, for a myriad of different activities that happen at our Winnipeg libraries. So keeping our libraries as modern as possible, whether it is through comfort of HVAC or whether it's through technology, there are opportunities here that we should be taking advantage of to make sure that our libraries are well used and are, comfortable gathering spaces for our residents.
I'm sorry, just to interrupt, Councillor Chambers. Number 4 is to PP&D. This is the modernization aspect of the energy efficiency and accessibility. And we had discussed potentially striking recommendation 2, which is public consultation with community stakeholders. Strike that from item 4, but keep in item 5, which is about programming.
Correct,
Thank you.
as an amendment.
Yeah, as per previous, I'll vote for it today, but there's just something brutally ironic about a Kenniston vote where we're totally ignoring the Community Energy Investment Roadmap report, which shockingly enough doesn't list road widening as one of the 23 different ways you could actually save on CO2 emissions. It doesn't. In fact, building retrofit seems to be the way to go if we want to save on CO2 emissions. So we're dropping a cool 758 or whatever it is million on that, but simultaneously we're going to have reports. I mean, we just had a report about which buildings the staff would recommend we do energy retrofits, everything from North End sewage plant to arenas here and there. But anyway, fine. I mean, it just seems to me almost sad that we're still, we get these massive, comprehensive, progressive reports and we don't do anything with them, but that's show business, I guess. So any comments? If not, we'll call the question.
Again, there has been discussion and data that shows that, greenhouse gas emissions on older buildings, does add to the carbon tonnage. This is about, in the face of the carbon tax that is present, the increasing cost that will occur year after year when this carbon tax is in full effect. So this is a way of trying to mitigate those costs. As it was mentioned earlier, the municipal accommodations does have high costs, and this is something that could potentially save money for the residents of the city of Winnipeg.
I am richly aware of that. The irony is we already have a report saying, give us your list of projects where we get the best bang for the buck if we invest $60 million. And we get that report, and then we don't put any money toward it. But let's study another one here, I suppose, whatever. Sorry, getting a little too jaded here. We actually have, maybe we could concentrate on getting the money to actually do the work we've already identified, but let's identify some more work, fine. So we'll call the question on item number 4. All those in favor?
As amended?
Was it amended?
Yeah, we're going to remove Recommendation 2.
All those in favor of the amended motion?
Yeah,
Aye.
and I, you know, Councillor Chambers, I'll move it up to committee, but with Councillor Bays, as per the other motions, I
Thank you.
reserve further comments. I have much to say about climate change.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Louis Riel, Library 2. This is item 5. This is,
This would go up to community services and is related to programming.
Yeah, same motion. The only difference here is that there would be community stakeholders consulted for the modernization in terms of IT and programming for the library.
all right. Obviously, some budget implications there. There's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Perhaps less controversially, item number 6, southbound St. Anne's at perimeter.
So this motion here speaks to a dedicated turn signal, much like the one that is on St. Mary's Road at the interchange at the perimeter. During the summer months, it is quite noted that traffic backs up pretty much all the way to southbound St. Anne's and Aldgate at the intersection there, as people are trying to leave for cottage country. So having a dedicated turn signal will help mitigate some of that traffic congestion. I would add that, you know, as far as an outcome, I would also like to see that while there would be a dedicated left-hand turn signal provided, that if there is no oncoming traffic on a green light, that cars would be able to continue to turn, so that it's not restricted to the left-hand turning signal, but if there is a green light and no oncoming traffic, they can still turn safely.
Travis, there?
Anything? No?
Well, no, let's go up to Public Works and they'll decide what to do with it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried. Hand the chair to Councillor Ellard. Item 7 is in my ward. This is, I think I'm the 4th different councillor to deal with this one. Grey Heron is a confusing street that wraps around in a 270-degree arc, so it's sometimes hard to figure out where we are, but this is a good design right next to the new DSFM school that is well underway. Good work by planners getting this on the agenda. Appreciate that. As developer said the same. So I will move the Urban Planning and Design Division recommendation to approve the submitted plans.
So moved, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried.
We have a new business item, which we can probably knock off here.
I would agree, yep.
He's going to, all right, Councillor Ellard, I think the floor is yours on the
Yeah, well, it's
very interesting indeed green infrastructure.
So as you will have seen from private internal communications, this has been well vetted, I guess. It's gone through a lot of channels. I'll read it so that it's there for the record, for the minutes. So whereas the City of Winnipeg is committed to incorporating green infrastructure into its combined sewer overflow master plan implementation, and whereas Save Our Seine Environmental Inc. is exploring green infrastructure initiatives in Winnipeg, semicolon. And whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has a green municipal fund that provides funding for not-profit organizations that are backed by municipalities to undertake projects that enhance long-term climate resilience. Therefore, be it resolved the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste, and Environment to delegate authority to the Director of Water and Waste to co-sign Save Our Seine's Green Municipal Fund application to undertake a feasibility study to implement green infrastructure on private property within the Seine River watershed. So, well, I'll be supporting this initiative. You'll note the on private property within the Seine River watershed. There has been for some time funding available from the FCM for green initiatives on private property. However, the municipality needs to show some type of support, and I think we may have found a way to, at last, show that support. Councilor Mays, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this may be the first time we do something like that. But anyway, so moved.
Yeah, I think that is the first time on the green infrastructure. The green infrastructure, of course, 10% of what we're supposed to be spending on CSO is supposed to be green infrastructure, which is a $100 million to $200 million commitment over a arc of time that could be 20 to 70 years, but we're hope 20. So yeah, this is exciting stuff. Especially with the Mission District big project coming up, hopefully within a couple of years.
So I had the opportunity to attend one of the seminars on green infrastructure projects. The entirety of different projects that can be provided or considered under this initiative was actually quite amazing and quite comprehensive. I see this as a great fit in terms of allowing, if accepted, allowing, a lot more research to be done prior to implementation on just how green infrastructure can assist in the combined sewer overflow. So fully support this motion. I think it's a great idea, and kudos on you.
Yeah, kudos to Sabre Saint for bringing this forward.
I do hope we get a good debate on this. When I asked, hey, Kenaston, $100 million sewer work, 10% supposed to be green infrastructure, the response was, we're doing a bike path, which might be green. I suppose it is. It has literally nothing to do with sewer infrastructure. In fact, it increases the impermeable area. So this is the level we're at right now in our debate on a $100 million green infrastructure initiative related to combined sewer. So I went to a whole conference on this in Hartford, actually, and was not uplifted by the staff response when I got back, but who knows? This looks like it might pay some dividends. So we'll call the question. Thank you to Councillor Allied for the motion. Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried. We have a momentary break, perhaps, and then Inman, and then can we take a break after Inman for... What do you have? You have Dumoulin. Hey. Well, we'll see how we do. We'll see how we do.
Do we need to move anything around on the agenda? Or we can't on hearings?
We have to wait until 10:30 or later for the hearings, so.
I mean, I'd be happy to deal with a same office board issue if I'm here, but then if I have to leave, I guess it's up to you to do the
Okay. Well, I don't think Inman's that long. Okay. So let's try and knock off Inman, and then your tour next. So in whatever order you want to take them.
Yeah, and then breaks up to you. I'm the one who's leaving.
I did the media wanted to talk about a number of things related to the water agenda, so I said come by in an hour, so we should be done within an hour. I can always step out on Dumoulin or something. So.
That's true.
Okay, so
As long as
back in,
it's done before noon.
back in like 3-5 minutes.
5-minute break. Okay.
5-minute break.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll call today's meeting back to order. We're on to the public hearing part of the agenda, one of the longer appearing public hearing agendas I can remember in my years here, so we'll try and keep moving along. Madam Clerk, first up, a three-pronged hearing, subdivision conditional use and variance all on, and rezoning actually on 38 Inman in St. Vital Ward.
Correct. For housekeeping, in accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is that the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted at that time. Please note when your name is called is your opportunity to speak, however, you're not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the public hearing process brochure This is available at the City Clerk's Department website, and please note that all public hearings are recorded and they will be a part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department or myself specifically. As Councillor Mays introduced, item 1 is a subdivision rezoning at 38 Inman Avenue. This is filed DAS Z 21-2024. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, it is a combined hearing. The following items will also be heard at the same time. Item 2 is a conditional use at 38 Inman Avenue. This is filed DCU 129167-2024D. And item 3 is a variance at 38 Inman Avenue under file DAV 129149-2024D. Please note an additional communication was received in the support of the matter, or a couple of additional communications, and this was after the agenda was published, so these have been dispersed to members of the committee. We have no participants joining us over Zoom for this particular hearing, so at this point I would hand it over to the planner for a brief overview.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning. The subject property is located on the south side of Inman Avenue in the Varennes neighborhood of the St. Vital ward. The site is approximately 5,120 square feet in area and currently has a detached single-family dwelling built in 1929. Under the Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, the site is within the established neighborhood mature communities policy area and within Area 1 of the small-scale and low-rise residential development guidelines for mature communities. The property is currently zoned R1M, which is residential single-family medium. The applicant is proposing to construct a sixplex, which requires an application to rezone the property to the R2 residential two-family district with a conditional use to permit multifamily and variances associated with the building and accessory parking area requirements of the Winnipeg zoning bylaw. According to the info guidelines, the subject proposal does not meet the preferred location criteria for a sixplex, however, it does meet the criteria for a fourplex. As such, the recommendation of the public service is to approve the rezoning, however, limit the number of units under the conditional use to 4 dwelling units. The variances are recommended for approval in part and as modified. More specifically, to permit a front yard of 23 feet, which is within the supportable range of the info guidelines, and to permit there to be no buffering along the lane to allow for parking directly off of the lane. However, to not support the parking variances associated with the number of parking stalls because it would not be required if it was for a fourplex. Conditions under the conditional use order have been included to ensure a fourplex will be designed to meet the info guidelines with the provision for plan approval to be reviewed by the Riel Community Committee. Should the recommendation of the public service be concurred in, then a fourplex would meet applicable policies within our Winnipeg 2045, Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, and the info guidelines. That concludes my introduction. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, remind me why this needs a conditional use?
Within the R2 zoning district, you can have multifamily, but it requires a conditional use order. So generally, the district itself would be for two-family, and this just allows for a little bit of flexibility where deemed appropriate.
Variance, you've explained you're in favor of 23 feet, not the requested 14. Throw out the parking one. If it's a fourplex, don't need the one there. You're okay with the yard business, the buffering, and subdivision and rezoning. The report is 4 units, so would there need to be plan approval on that then, or a whole new submission?
We put that within the conditional use order. The plan approval is there for,
okay.
for the condition on the.
So if this is approved at 4 rather than 6, they need not go around the mulberry bush again here. This is,
They'll have
would
to
just-
come back to Riel for the plan approval
plan,
itself.
okay, but not a full-on public hearing.
Nope.
Okay. Good. Any questions on?
Yeah. So 38 Inman Place looks like, or Inman Avenue, the house looks like it's just recently been renovated. It's landscaped and white picket fence, the whole 9 yards.
38?
I've got 38 Inman Avenue up on Google screen,
No idea.
it's an N block?
Yeah.
Corner of St. Thomas. Yeah, in terms of renovations, it wouldn't necessarily be something we would look at. That would be a private matter.
And it's the back lane, is it gravel or is it?
Oh, yeah.
It is gravel, and there is, to be clear, a condition on the ACG report to pave a portion of it leading to the end of the property from the corner.
And the condition is cement as opposed to asphalt, because that's what we do. And it traditionally did that at Moore, we've done it a bunch of places, yeah, okay.
Would that be the apron, or?
Say that again?
Would it be the apron, the entrance to the lane, or is it?
And to the edge of the
longer?
property.
To the edge of the property.
We've got to be in the major CSO district here, so what implications from that?
This location is part of the partially separated area, so their implication is that they need to provide a technical memo demonstrating that there is no increase to the combined sewer, and if they need to construct additional infrastructure to relieve the combined sewer, that they would be obligated to.
Okay. Don't they have to do some sort of discharge control device, or is that a?
So the discharge control device is on the land drainage side, and that is independent of the combined sewer. That's standard across all sewers, all land drainage, all combined. It's not unlimited discharge from multifamily homes to the sewer system.
So they'd have to do that
They
as well?
have to do that if it's combined sewer or separated,
Good.
partially
Okay.
separated.
Always enjoy these discussions. All right, thank you. All right, I think that's it for questions. On we go then.
Sounds great. Let's bring up the applicant. Mr. Winthrop is joining us in person.
If you can help me with the,
Sure.
let's always do this.
Just before you start, John,
Yeah, sure.
for clarity, the timing here is it's interesting to me. The timing arguably is interesting in that we have passed at the last council, we passed something shifting the infill guidelines to being a zoning requirement, including that you can't build a triplex with a gravel lane. However, equally to be fair, this was submitted during the period where we had infill guidelines in place, so the rules are shifting, but this is under that regime, the infill guidelines.
Yeah, and technically for different proposals, so I suspect that some of those same sentiments will get transferred over to additional changes to the bylaw, but that would be for a triplex, and he's proposing for a 6.
And more confusing yet, the changes we made at the last council stopped at triplex. We didn't get into the fourplexes, knowing that hellish debate is coming when we get to the housing accelerator.
That is correct, yes.
Very good. All right.
And I don't think you've given 3 readings to that bylaw amendment either.
Also fair,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're still under the current existing zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm here for 38 Inman, John Winthrop. 3 items, item 1, 2, 3. We're at the public hearing stage. I submitted the application some time ago. As you mentioned, after the public hearing, we go to council, then agreements. Today, we're here at the Real Community Committee for subdivision rezoning, conditional uses and variances for 6 dwelling units with 6 parking stalls. 38 Inman is on a corner lot at the southwest corner of St. Thomas Road and Inman Avenue, about 1 block east of St. Mary's Road, 1 block west of St. Anne's, just north of Fermor Avenue. It's in an intensification area with a combined sewer district, Maget. I will be butchering names all day today. Some of the amenities within 15-minute walking is close to the Glen Lawn High School, YMCA, École Varennes, Superstore, L'Oreal School Division offices would be at approximately 15 minutes away. So that's the walk shed from this property. for 15 minutes. The current transportation routes, there are a number of them nearby on Fermor, St. Anne's, and St. Mary's Road. In 2025, those are shift over with the FX bus on St. Mary's, the F7 on St. Anne's, and I believe the F57 also is going to be out there. I'm still learning these names and these numbers along Fermor, so there's going to be a number of rapid transit choices within a walking distance or high-frequency transit. There's a number of cycling routes nearby along Fermor, as well as in the neighborhood, informal as well as separated. The front street along Inman is paved, sidewalks, limited front driveways. I believe there's only a couple of front driveways onto Inman, 13 of them actually on this block. St. Thomas Road stops at Fermor. It's a short block here. Again, concrete. There are no sidewalks along St. Thomas Road here. It's a north-south road. There are no sidewalks. The sidewalks are on Inman. The back lane, I took this picture a few months ago in springtime. It would be one of the worst black lanes. There's one, actually, North Gadonan, I think, is actually worse than this one, but that's a public hearing in the fall. We'll get into the back lane.
That throne, John.
That's Councillor Barati's issue with that back lane. A number of properties do access the rear public lane because of limited front street access either on Fermor or Inman. We're currently zoned R1. A Kitty Corner Trust was a property that was zoned recently to R for multiple family small along Fermor. So there is multiple family nearby. There are R2 zoned properties along Fermor. Across the street from us, directly to the south, is a interesting property. It's a single detached dwelling fronting Fermor with a detached garages at the back. Across the street to the north of us are a couple of detached houses, bungalows. Directly to the east of us is a detached garage and house. Again, no sidewalks along St. Thomas. Our house is the one with the red dot on it. To the west of us is 36 Inman, bungalow-style house. Our front yard, by the way, is 20 feet. Our neighbor's front yard is 26 feet. This is a view looking at the property from towards the northeast. Our property is the one with the dot. There is a corrugated metal fence around our property. Those trees along the common property line are towards 36 Inman. Again, it's a corrugated metal fence. We would be looking to replace that fencing with something, I think, more attractive. We're 50 feet wide by 102 feet deep. This is the property looking towards the south at it, a single detached house right now. There are no trees in our front boulevard. There is an existing driveway, front driveway to this property onto Inman into the front yard. If you look back here, it doesn't really go anywhere, but there is an approach in the boulevard. I think at one time there was a driveway that went through the property, but when you get onto the property, if you look at this picture here, it just kind of stops. I don't believe the public service addressed that in their comments if they want us to restore the boulevard or not. I'd ask you to ask for a clarification on that, but there is a asphalt driveway in the boulevard and there are no trees. There is no trees on the flanking boulevard along St. Thomas either. This is a picture of the rear yard. It's mainly gravel at this time. There are no trees in the rear yard. A couple trees along the common property line. Part of this application is also a widening of the rear public lane by approximately 4.5 feet. That's the subdivision component of it. So we're rezoning it as well as doing a lane widening. The widening, I don't believe, is actually widening to allow a wider concrete or asphalt. It's a widening of just bringing it up to today's standards of what a width of a rear public lane is to fit all the utilities in. You see this common in older plans of subdivision that we do. When we come in and do a new intensification, usually the back lane was laid out 100 years ago or something like that. And then the standard today is for a wider public way right-of-way. We're looking at stack dwellings, 3 stories, or 2.5 stories, 27.6 feet in height, 6 dwelling units. So we're below the allowable amount for R1 zoning, which is 35. We're going to build it around 27 to 28 feet, 6 dwelling units, 2 per floor. There will be separate entrances. The units are 950 square feet, which is generous in size, and each of them are going to be 2 bedrooms. We're going to have 18-foot front yard setback to the building, a 14-foot front yard to the stairs in the building, a 30-foot rear yard, 5 feet against the existing house to the west of us, and 5 feet against St. Thomas, and a 6-foot wood fence. So we would take down the corrugated metal fence and put in a more attractive wood barrier fence. 6 parking stalls at the rear of the property. We need 3 variances. The front yard is 14 feet, which is to a set of stairs instead of 22 feet. 6 parking stalls instead of 7. And then there's that variance that we always need if you take parking off the rear public lane of insufficient landscaping. Directly west of us is a 50-foot wide lot, rear lane access. 2 deciduous trees are on the neighboring property, not ours. The wood barrier fence would go along our side property line with a neighbor. I don't believe the neighbor's here today. There's a picture of what the fence would look like, the number of windows. We try to eliminate the number of windows facing towards our neighbor into the yards. Across, again, St. Thomas, 49 Fermor was zoned recently RFM small. It still hasn't been redeveloped yet. The front yards along Inman range from anywhere from 17 feet to 20 feet to 26 feet. Ours is going to be proposed to the building approximately 18 feet.
One slide.
This one.
Was there a unit count, though?
On the RFM small,
Yeah,
I can't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to look through my notes.
okay.
It was just rezoned. I was involved in that project, and I can't recall that number directly off my top of my head. The house hasn't been changed. There was nothing on the ground, and I tried to contact somebody to see what they're doing, and nobody ever got back to me. So I'm not sure where that project is, but the zoning has been made. Variety front yards, as I said, going down to 17 feet to up to 26 feet along Inman. The alignment, I think, came in at 38 feet. I can't recall. We're prepared to pave the rear back lane. That's something. I know the public service wants concrete. We'd be happy with asphalt. No, just along our section, 50 feet. We looked at that. We seriously looked at that. The cost of that would be quite extraordinary in terms of doing the entire back lane. We'd be happy to participate in a local improvement. I'd be happy to go door to door with a local improvement along Fermor, but the cost of the back lane would be, I'd say, extremely high for this property for 6 or 4 units to do. But we're prepared to, as part of this application, because I understand the need for, and I agree with the ward councillor, I think we live in an urban environment. We should have paved rear lanes. I'd be happy with asphalt. I understand the ward council, you might want to take concrete, or perhaps you might want it to be asphalt to take the income for the concrete and use it for the rest of the lane. I leave that to him to decide. We're pretty flexible, but we agree that the back lane should be upgraded. It is terrible. That's a picture of it. Again, we're looking for approval today for 6 dwelling units with 6 parking stalls. We want the conditional use for that, the rezoning to R2, which would allow that. The variances I've outlined before you, and we want to widen that back lane 4.5 feet, but that's not, again, widening it with concrete. That's just widening it on the plan of subdivision to make a paper plan of subdivision to allow the utilities to go down that back lane within the public right-of-way. Okay, excellent. Any kind of questions that you might have?
Councilor Mesa?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just regarding the asphalt versus concrete, what's the difference proportionally, approximately, if it's the same scope project?
Cost-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a significant cost between concrete and asphalt, but for 50 feet, I'll speak on behalf of my clients. I think
And ish, generally?
it's closer on a 50 feet than if it was 100 feet, then the separation is significant. Just a couple $100,000 on, I'd say for 50 feet, but it's.
For concrete?
Yeah, concrete's a lot more. You got to put in rebar. We have to rip it out, put in concrete, use rebar. I'd say it's getting up there. It depends on the time of the year. Asphalt's cheaper. We can go in there and like asphalt it like this fall. Like it's a lot quicker to do asphalt.
But did you say 50 asphalt?
Yeah,
Asphalt? Right.
I'm not a construction engineer.
Yeah.
I try not to get involved in the pricing because the engineers will tell me it depends on the time of the year and the project and how much the bids are coming in at, and what it looks like next year. Asphalt can be done pretty quickly. It's more affordable. The city of Winnipeg does it in a lot of places instead of concrete. But it depends on the length. At 50 feet, from what I've been told by the construction engineers, it's a little bit more closer in price range. I just don't know the difference off the top of my head.
All the mobilization.
Okay.
We have been, though it's probably out of date now, we have been saying if you've got a 50-foot wide, you're probably in for 5,000, but of course, the person behind you would also be in, so you'd be paying.
The cost.
City Point,
Yeah.
the 5,000, it would be low. It might be more like 20, given the city isn't cost sharing and your neighbor across the back wouldn't be cross sharing.
Ultimately, I think this back lane should be done in concrete, whether it's a local improvement or other properties contributing along the way through redevelopment or something like that. I expect that's more likely. I talked to the engineers about this. You can put in concrete now and then extend the concrete down later on. It doesn't need to be, asphalt now. I had thought, and you would think it would be easier to put in asphalt than later on convert it to concrete. But my understanding, you can do concrete now. But of course, I think my clients are more in favor of asphalt now.
Okay, just,
Yeah.
okay. Chambers,
Yeah.
Councilor Chambers.
You mentioned that there was a current project, but not underway. Is there any other infill on that street?
Not that I'm aware of this time, or if there's any other applications out there. After talking to local residents, I expect to see more infill. There's people renting. A lot of the houses are older housing stock that are not in good condition. It's either fix it up or sell it and split it into 50-foot wide into 225s, or doing a fourplex or duplex or a sixplex. You're seeing that more and more along Furmore. I've done about 3 or 4 projects along Furmore over the last 8 years to change the zoning or to lot splits, including along this section just to the south. So I expect you're going to start seeing it along more Inman.
Second question, you're asking for 6 parking stalls. In your presentation, I didn't see anything with respect to garbage or snow storage. I know back lanes get plowed, windrows, and residents are responsible for snow storage to get rid of those windrows.
Thankfully, we're widening the back lane to allow accommodation for windrows and snow and items like that. The garbage we've accommodated up next to the building there. Of course, we will continually work with the plan approval would be the next logical step to come to the community committee. We'll accommodate garbage to make sure it's roll-out bins for the 6 units. We don't need I'll call it a BFI container. So we have our roll-out bins with a 30-foot rear yard. The parking stall is 23 feet. So between the house and the parking stall is 7 to 8 feet that we have space to put in roll-out bins that will roll out to the back lane. And then with the widened back lane, they would sit there out of the way of the cartway or the vehicle where the vehicles go.
So what is the approximate width of the parking stalls?
The width of the parking stalls are, if they're next to a fence, they're 10 feet. Other than that, they're 8. But the length is required underneath the zoning bylaw to be 23 feet from the back lane. Typically, a parking stall is only 20 feet. So between the parking stall and the house and a 30-foot rear yard, we have like more than 7 feet to play with to put the garbage cans to roll them out. So they'll back against the house and then be rolled out to the back lane.
And are these parking stalls dedicated to persons with disabilities?
Yes. So all the 10-foot wide stalls are automatic. That's automatically designated for people with accessibility. So I think stall 6 there, we would make for accessibility.
The variances are fairly straightforward, but, I mean, if if you're limited to 4 units, not 6, which is the entitlement under the info guidelines, would you still need 14 feet rather than 23 feet off the front?
Off the front, well, it's the stairs that are going to the front. We can change the building design, whether it's 6 or 4, to change that. It's the stairs that come out to 14 feet. The face of the building is around 18 feet. If that variance wasn't approved, we would still just design the typology of the building to accommodate, whatever front yard you want to get the 6 units in. It shrinks the units down a little bit. It might push the building up. So when you compress a building in with the yards, you end up on a lot like this, go more vertical. So it's a matter of, which I'm fine going up another couple feet to like 30 feet or something like that. We're at 27. So if we were to lose the front yard and push it in, we would push the building up. On a lot like this, that's kind of the dynamics at play there.
Well, if you only have 4 units to accommodate, you might not, but that's it.
Yeah, I'll comment on 4 units. The cost of construction and the mortgages that you get through CMHC is better for 4 or above. The price of construction, whether you construct 4, 5, or 6 units, the same price for that type of building. It just changes the price point of kind of who's living in it. If it's 4, then the cost is going to be more higher for rent or mortgage on that person. If it's 6, it's slightly lower. Because it's the same price of construction and financing.
One quick, there's no interesting idea of do it in asphalt, but we'll take the money that would have been spent for concrete and do something else with it on that lane, but that hasn't been explored, has it, with the staff?
No, I didn't discuss
It's an
that.
interesting idea.
I'm throwing out there, that's something the word councillor, because I know how passionate you are about gravel back lanes. And this is a back lane that needs, I think, something, but I understand city finances are tight, and we're looking to help along, infill housing.
You don't have an underlying lot of record here, I'm going to assume.
No, I don't recall, that's not the subdivision component. The subdivision component is for the widening of the
Right.
lane.
Right, because we probably wouldn't be here if you had an underlying lot of record. Okay.
It didn't sound like there was much of a difference, though, between the two. What I heard is this size of the project, there's not that much difference between asphalt and concrete. I may have misunderstood.
Yeah, I don't
I
have
think
those
that's
numbers
probably
directly.
Mobilization costs and such.
I think probably the word councillor from St. Vital knows the prices of concrete and asphalt very well for back lanes, and knows far more intimately than I will in terms of the price differences. We did look at the price for the entire back lane for concrete and asphalt, and it's just extraordinarily exorbitant.
Yeah, my thanks to your client, and to you. I mean, you've tried on this. You've certainly reached out to me. I appreciate the effort. I'll have a decision within half an hour, hopefully here, but I do appreciate your clients trying to be creative here.
Both you and Councillor Ella did a lot of work on back lanes in terms of local improvements and asphalting them.
Yeah. He's ahead of me.
The deal was, though, the city paid for asphalt, half of the asphalt, and included the drainage. So it ended up being a really good deal. Ultimately.
I would love to address the asphalt back lanes in St. Vital and elsewhere, because I think it's important that as a city we have that. I've looked at other models, such as Vancouver, that have that, and they'll have a more rural standard for a back lane, not gravel, where they allow some paving just where the wheels go, essentially. So I've researched this, and I've gone to Vancouver, talked to planners there and engineers of like what could be done as a solution here. To allow housing, infill housing, while addressing gravel back lanes to bring it up to standard. Because I believe in an urban situation, you should have paved back lanes. This is not the arm of Rosser or something like that. We're a city.
And for the record, I do have a couple of back lanes in Fort Richmond.
Yeah, okay. Knowing you're coming later, there is a certain mathematical purity to four units being suggested here by the staff on 5,000 feet, and when we get down to the item much later, it's 791 on almost a million. Like there's a certain mathematical consistency, I've got to say that for the planners here. So, but we'll come to that in a few hours. So, thank you. Who else? And you'll have the right to speak in rebuttal if we have any new evidence or any opposition.
Thank you. So I'll note that we had received 4 submissions in support of the item, but I do not have any other participants registered in support, in opposition, or for information. Is anyone in the gallery interested in speaking on the combined hearing at 38 Inman Avenue? Okay, then I would recommend at this point any questions for the public service.
Kowalik is not with us. I assume it's a public works, not a planning specification on the concrete as versus asphalt. Asphalt.
He said he wouldn't fight on that. I'm chatting with him right now on Teams, because I know he's kind of between,
Oh, he's
unfortunately.
done it. I mean, fair enough. Fair
He's got EKT. He said not ideal, but, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Not in, yeah, fair enough. Okay. I think we're ready to go.
Mr. Winstrup, do you have any last comments?
No, I believe we have people registered in support, but I did talk to some of the neighbors out there. They were lovely to deal with and talk with, and about this project, they were more interested of when is the house coming down, and when would the back lane, or what changes I could do to help them with the back lane. They got spurred on why we spent, I'll say, more time than typically trying to resolve the whole back lane for not just my client, but for the entire neighborhood. So I do want to thank them. So I do appreciate the efforts of, I think, the ward councillor on back lanes and the city of Winnipeg on that, and I look forward to trying to solve that for more than a few people.
Just a quick question. When you spoke to the residents in the area, were they more owners of the property or renters of the property?
A mixture of both. I found there was actually a lot of, I speak a little bit of Ukrainian. Some Ukrainians, it was great. There's a lot of young, I think, Ukrainian families who happen to be going in there. I don't think I necessarily know some of the correct language, Slavic languages for rental or owner. Some of the more long-standing owners of the property I could recognize were owners of the property. They didn't seem to have any concerns. So.
Okay. I think then it's that time when we have motion. So I will turn, thank you. I will turn the chair over to Councillor Allard. We've got 3 to deal with here, right?
Sure do.
We'll start, obviously, with the subdivision and rezoning. So I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'm going to move, Mr. Skierski is going to help me out here as we go. I'll move, as with many moments in this term, my wrath is directed more at my colleagues than at the public service for a change. So actually here, I agree almost entirely with the public service on this. But so I am amenable to shifting to a asphalt lane requirement, but is that under conditional use or?
That would be under the rezoning,
That's
the
here.
ACG.
Okay.
Yeah.
On we roll. So I'll move then that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Executive Policy Committee if I'm amending it.
If we're going to do any amendments, it would be PPG.
Okay.
And what, do you have some suggested wording?
I haven't actually amended with these ACGs, but it would be page 16 of the ACG report. It says public lane. My thought would be just to amend that to, instead of Portland cement, to be just identifying the asphalt.
Yep.
Is there a name for?
If that needs,
Cement?
Yeah.
if that needs additional specification,
Yeah.
would hope that would be flagged by Public Works.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, so supporting reasons.
Sorry, I'm just making sure I've got the amendments included in your approval. So we've got the ACG report, the public lane. I'll get the clause number. We're going to move it from Portland cement to asphalt. And you're saying you're going to approve it. We're going to send it to PP&D and correct it then at this point. Before
Okay.
we move this motion, you can give your reasons.
There are roughly 53 voting subdivisions or polls within the St. Vital ward. Where I've done worst 2 elections in a row is this area, this exact area. Why would that be? Is it my stance on South Africa? Is it my stance on police matters? No, it's the back lane's terrible. All of the back lanes in here are terrible. They're gravel. You saw the picture of them. They're all terrible. They're all laughably bad. One tries to do something about it. What isn't a good solution for that is massively increasing the density on the back lane. So here, for once, we seem to have the staff taking note and recognizing this, saying, well, 4 units, because that's what's allowed under the infill guidelines, and we'll obligate them to pave it these are, the clients of Mr. Winthrop have really tried hard on this one, I think, to come up with something, so I am amenable to doing it in asphalt, not concrete. We have approved 60-odd asphalt lanes over the past decade, so it'd be a bit much to say this has got to be concrete. So that'll save them some money without being inconsistent with quality. It's a weird little timing window we're in here. I would think in a year, we'll probably be saying you can't do a fourplex on a gravel lane. You can't, this is crazy. We can't keep throwing development on these lanes, pretending that will improve. As I said earlier, I have the most gravel lanes in the city. Not a single one has been touched this year. And the calls, as we're sitting here, I could read you out the email I got from somebody about 2.5 blocks away from here. The complaints just rain in, and the planning department can't make it better, but at least they can try not to make it worse. So if we actually had some sort of plan to pave the lanes or improve them, that would be something, but we don't. So we pretend that putting 4 to 6 times more population on the lane will somehow make it better, or we just pretend that it doesn't matter, and then, well, who gets the calls? Well, it's the area councillor, so who cares? So thank you to Mr. Skierski for seemingly grasping this, which some of his, some others have not in the planning department. So, yeah, I'm prepared to go. I think the public service is saying, look, under the rules at this stage, a fourplex would be allowed here. I note that the changes we just made is that we're not going to have triplexes on gravel lanes. You can't do a lot split here would be opposed under the infill guidelines because it's a gravel lane and he doesn't have an underlying lot of record. So there's a small window of time. I suspect if this came back a year from now, maybe we would say, no, you can't do that. It's a gravel lane. We have very different rules for developing on gravel roads than paved roads. So it's an argument I've been trying to make, and I appreciate Ms. Boris and some others, Mr. Veach, Mr. Chislin, seem to be grasping my point, which I appreciate. We'll see where we are in a year. But we're not debating the Housing Accelerator Fund here right now, perhaps later. On this one, yeah, I support the 4 units because that's what's allowed. It would be a bit mean-spirited to deny them that. A year from now, that might be different. So I think that's a fair trade-off with the asphalt. Otherwise, Winthrop's right on a bunch of stuff. It's quite close to Varennes School. It's quite close to Glenlawn Collegiate. It's quite close to the Y, all those sorts of things. This isn't a bad area to try and densify a bit. If they had the paved lanes, there'd be sort of a model area where you could do some of this. But since we don't seem to have any solution on the gravel lanes, all we can do is say, look, let's at least face reality and not quadruple the population on them. So it's a corner lot. I think I'd be very different, and frankly, staff wouldn't support it if it was the one next door. You can't have like an island of paved lane surrounded by gravel. It'd probably make the clearing even worse than it is now. So in short, and given the hour, I'll move those as my supporting reasons.
Okay, is that a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
On to the conditional use, Madam Clerk.
Just let me read a little bit of housekeeping on that. The committee has made a recommendation on this particular matter for the subdivision rezoning. It will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning aspect. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Probably not the time to ask, but when asphalt backlane is done, how is it maintained and at whose cost?
The city.
City.
City, okay.
Same as the gravel lane.
Okay.
You're right.
Same as the pavement. Conditional use,
Yes, please,
Ben?
yeah.
Conditional use, leave the chair with Councillor Allard. I'll get rolling here. I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that in accordance with section 254 and subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the conditional use, and conditional use in this matter is 4 units. 4 units. The conditional use is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, and there is no C apparently. D is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons,
Please.
yeah, as indicated, frankly, I don't think 4 is correct on a gravel lane, but that is inarguably what the infill guidelines would permit. So for today, I'm prepared to support it, given that it's on a corner lot. We've had others, Barrington, just west of St. Mary's Road comes to mind as another place where there's 4 units approved, where there's a paved lane on one side and gravel on the other. So supporting reasons, yeah, I would not support 6. I would strongly oppose 6. I would hope the committee level above us does not go with 6, because it would be completely contradictory to what we've just said about gravel lanes in the changes we just made at the last council meeting.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the conditional use be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
So the committee's decision with respect to this portion of the application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so is included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Okay, on the variance, I'll be supporting what the public service is saying here, so, all right, I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll move the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll move that in accordance with subsection 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, that the variance is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and D is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. As indicated, I support the planner's views on the variances, slight adjustment on the front yard, don't need the parking business, and the buffering thing is standard practice, I would say, in these sorts of matters. So,
Councilor Chambers has his hand up. Councilor Chambers? Are you done, Councilor Reed?
yes.
Okay, Councilor Chambers.
So with this going from 6 to 4 units, is that still 6 parking stalls or 4?
They would be able to provide 6, because they have the space for it, they could provide less. The requirement wouldn't be for 6, it'd be for 5, so they'd easily meet the variance, or sorry, they would meet the bylaw, not
Still,
require the
okay.
variance.
Okay, good question.
Okay,
Those
so
are my supporting reasons.
that's moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
Correct?
Approved as, in part and as modified technically, I guess.
Yes,
Okay.
as laid out, yes, in part and as modified by the Public Service as spelled out in the materials.
Madam Clerk, you're good
I am
with that
good.
motion?
I
Okay,
understand.
all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary carried.
So the committee's decision with respect to this portion of the application may also be appealed. Should you wish to do so, information on how to do it will be included in the order issued. That's mailed to all persons registered. Would we like to move in right away to the Moulin?
I'm going to step out on Dumoulin.
Okay, so there are 2 same office items, and I have to leave at 12 noon, so, Councilor Chambers, I don't know, I guess.
So I'll take the
you're
chair
stepping-
then?
You're stepping out?
Yeah, I got calls.
And then, yeah, if you want.
But I'll be back I will be back.
And the other, Councilor Mays, is for, it's a secondary plan amendment, item 7.
I would like to be here if we get to that, but,
Okay,
So which ones are you just,
but
you're just stepping out for Dumont?
yeah,
do we recess, or do we just go to the next hearing before, if you want to be there for 7?
call me and I'll.
Okay, so let's start with Dumoulin?
Are you're going to be back for number 7?
Okay, so, secondary plan amendment, yeah, okay.
Okay,
So you're in the chair?
yeah.
DeMoulin's okay?
I think we've agreed to go with Dumoulin first. for
Sounds
report.
good. Okay. Item 4 is a rezoning at 259 Dumoulin Street under file DAZ 202, 2024. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, it is a combined hearing. The following items will also be heard at the same time. That's a conditional use at 259 Dumoulin Street under file DCU 104083, 2024D. And item 6 is a variance at 259 Dumoulin Street under file DAV 104065, 2024D. One additional communication was received in support of the matter after the agenda was published. This has been distributed to the members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard, followed by those in support, in opposition, and those registered for information. The applicant will be asked to return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information would be permitted at that time. Do not have anyone joining us over Zoom for this item, so then I can proceed to handing it over to the planner for an overview.
Thank you. The subject property is located on the north side of Dumoulin Street in the North St. Boniface neighborhood of the St. Boniface ward. The site is approximately 4,044 square feet in area and is currently occupied by a one-story detached single-family dwelling built in 1933. Under the Complete Community Direction Strategy 2.0, the site is within the established neighborhood's mature community policy area and is also within the medium density policy area of North St. Boniface Secondary Plan. The property is currently zoned R1M residential single-family medium. The applicant is proposing to build a triplex, which requires an application to rezone the property to R2 residential 2-family with a conditional use to permit multifamily in that zoning district. There are also variances for the minimum lot area, pedestrian pathway width, and accessory parking requirements of the Winnipeg zoning bylaw. The Urban Planning and Design Division recommends approval with conditions of the subject application because the proposal is consistent with applicable policies in our Winnipeg 2045, Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, and the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan. That concludes my introduction. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
The one question I had, it was conforming with the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan, and I see it's in the report, so,
It is, yeah.
yeah. So be right, those are all my questions for the administration for now.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Wonderful. So then I would call forward the applicant. Mr. Winthrop with us? There you are.
Is he? Which row? Which row?
Is him walking?
Thank you. I should thank the clerk. She's been working very hard the last few days to make sure these public hearings go well. It's done an excellent job. So thank you so much. And helping with the computer, I'm a Mac guy, not a PC guy.
Oh, okay.
So we're here for 259 Dumoulin. Similar to the last one, it's a rezoning, conditional use, and a variance. There is no subdivision component here. Made the application. We're at the public hearing today for the rezoning. That has to go up to council. Then afterward would be agreements. We're at the public hearing today at the Real Community Committee, as I said, for 3 dwelling units. That's 3 dwelling units for a rezoning, a conditional use, and a variance before we can get construction going. 2559 Dumoulin is between St. Jean Baptiste and Langevin on the north side. Happy St. Jean Baptiste to people out there. We are 6 doors east of Langevin, 1 block north of Provencher Park. We're in an intensification target area. The combined sewer district is Dumoulin. We are in the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan. It's designated medium density. Within 15-minute walking is a number of amenities, including the Cole Taché, Fort Gilbertar, Wildeer Park, the Franco-Manitoba Cultural Center, the Belgium Club, the Forks, actually St. P. Hospital, all within 15-minute walk, the College. Transportation, I took the number 10 bus out there a number of times, but there are a number of transit routes that go through past Provencher as well through the neighborhood, the 56, that's currently In the future, in the very near future, we are within 800 meters of a very frequent transit stop that is proposed at the corner of Taché and Provencher for a number of routes. The FX4 and the F7 will be going down Provencher, as well as the D18 down Taché. We are within 800 meters of those buses. We are, I think, 187 meters from the FX4 and the F7. I think it's just going to be the same bus stop for the 10. Number of multiple cycling routes in the neighborhood along Notre Dame. Dumoulin is actually designated on Public Works for high priority for transit for cycling and walking. It's a front street, and there are no front driveways, landscape boulevards, concrete sidewalks. There's a 2-hour parking restriction Monday to Friday. Rear public lane is concrete. It's 20 feet wide. I guess that's why we're not widening it. A lot of detached garages. 100% of the lots use the back lane. Many of the driveways are either gravel or concrete or have a detached structure on the back of it. It's currently zoned R1. Directly to the west of us is zoned RFM medium, and to the south of us is RFM medium, R2 to the south. To the east of us, R1M. Directly to the west of us is RFM medium, and we have some R2 properties to the north of us. To the north is a detached garage. To the south of us, they look like single detached dwellings, but they actually are multiple family with R2 and RFM medium zoning. Currently, the house to the east of us is a single detached house, R1M zoning, 261 Dumoulin. That's a picture of it looking to the north of it. To the west of us is a fourplex RFM medium zoning at 255 Dumoulin. We are 33 feet wide, 222 feet long at 259. As you can see there, RFM medium directly to the west of us. It's a much larger lot. There are 2 trees along our common property line with a neighbor to the west. 1 tree in the southwest corner is going to be removed. It's an older single detached dwelling, 1 story. There's 1 small tree in the front boulevard between us and the concrete sidewalk and the road. It's a picture of the house from the back to the left of us. On the left side of the picture, it's 261. On the right of us is 255. You can see that fourplex. There again is the fourplex directly to the west of us at 255. There are some smaller trees in the backyard. Those will be removed. There's a detached garage in the back and a tree on the neighbor's yard and I'll say plastic type fence between the common property line. We're looking to rezone it to R2, a conditional use for the multi-use dwellings. There's variances that we're dealing with. We're looking to construct a 2-story building, 25 feet in height with 3 dwelling units, 1 per floor, 1 in the basement, 1 on the main floor, 1 on the top floor. They each have separate entrances, 2 on the front, 1 on the east side of the building. There are 3-bedroom units, approximately 1,000 square feet in space, which is a good size for families. The 3 parking stalls in the back. The garbage is going to be located along the east property line, roll-out bins. The rear yard is going to be 47 feet deep. The front yard, 21 feet. The length of the building is 54 feet. Doors on the east side and facing the south. 4-foot side yards. We need 4 variances on this one. Again, that insufficient landscaping at the rear lot lane is because we have to pull in cars off the lane into the back. 3 parking stalls instead of 4. That's 1 parking stall per unit. 1 of the stalls will be accessible for handicap. We need starting to becoming increasingly a new variance that this is my first time dealing with it. It's the same zoning bylaw, a 4-foot wide pedestrian connection to the entrance of the unit on the basement. The entrance to get into the basement is actually down a set of stairs, so it's not an accessible unit. All the entrances have to have stairs, but we're required to have a 4-foot wide pedestrian connection for accessibility. We're not meeting that. And the lot area is 4,044 square feet instead of 5,000 square feet. As I mentioned before, was directly to the west of the subject lands is a 4-plex zoned RFM medium. It was actually for sale last fall, or some of the units were. At the back is, I don't know what was going on there. I think they might have been renovating it or something like that, and they had a large BFI bin in the back. We'll put a wood barrier fence between us and the property to the east of us instead of the plastic fence, but we will dialogue with a neighbor. We have done so in the past. I believe my client has, regarding fencing and things like that. With a 4-foot side yard, the fence will be 6 feet in height. The pedestrian walkway is generally 4.9 feet from the front sidewalk, the concrete sidewalk along the front of the house. Then we get to the side yard. We're going to have it 4 feet there to get to the access door to go to the basement unit where there will be a set of stairs. So it's not going to be an accessible unit. So we're asking for a 4-foot side yard with a 4-foot walkway. All the suites have stairs to enter this building. We filed, when it comes to parking, the North St. Boniface Secondary Plan required me to do a study on parking. I've submitted a study on there, very in-depth. It's a very walkable neighborhood, 83% on walk score, good transit, 62, very bikeable, 87. There is a study in there that gives them more detail about the surrounding amenities, the walkability of the neighborhood, things like that. I went out there a number of times last fall, hopped on a bus, went out there, took pictures of the streets in September, October, I think even in November. Completed a parking study to indicate the streets, looking at even through air photograph, going back a number of years, primarily devoid of cars. There's not a lot of congested on-street parking that I either witnessed, photographed, or looked through in the air photographs. And there's a diverse number of uses within 400 to 800 meters with high-quality transit. Again, we're looking for R2 zoning to get 3 units, 3 parking stalls, and the variances to be approved. That's what we're asking for today. Is there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions.
Yeah, well, it's just, you agree with the public service recommendation?
Yeah, in general, we're fine if they're supporting a triplex and 3 parking stalls.
And the public service supports, that's in the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation?
Yep,
Yeah.
that is.
And then, yeah, and then some trees have to come down. I see the drawing has trees coming up.
Sorry, pardon me?
The drawing has, like the drawing of the building you have has trees.
Yeah, we'll plant new trees. We expect to go through plan approval on that picture. Some of the trees are in the side yard. We'll happily come through a plan approval and plant trees, new trees with you.
Well, I'm just, if I could say that this building has brought either is tree neutral or has brought like 1 net new tree, is that something that's possible? How many are coming down?
There's one in the, well, there's a shrub in the backyard that's coming down.
Okay.
2 along the back property line. Oh, let me show you the picture. That's not our tree, that's the neighbor's tree.
Okay.
Those 2 along the, we'll look at trying to keep those trees because they're next to the parking stalls. If I can accommodate them and move my garbage can around and try to keep the trees, we generally do. It's close to the property line, but we might be able to fit those 2 into the property.
So if we can't,
There's no other tree in the back except for that shrub, and then there's a tree at the corner of the house, right at the corner of the house that I suspect will have to come down because of the demolition of the dwelling. It looks like it's wrapped around the foundation of the house.
okay. So upon approval, I mean, I could, are there any other delegates? I guess we'll probably wait for that. Councilor Chambers, you had some questions? I
Yeah.
think I'm mostly done.
Yeah, no, and you answered the question, or you asked the question with regards to the tree being removed and landscaping. Can you go back to slide 15, please?
Sure. That's across the street from us.
Okay, so there is that building to the left in the picture?
Yes.
That's an infill?
Yeah, I believe all these are either rezoned or made infill. I believe that's an infill. I didn't do that project, but you can look at the style of that building. That doesn't look more than 10 to 15 years old.
And you said a 4-foot side yard.
Yeah, yes, we're going to have 4-foot side yard against our 4-plex as well as the single-family dwelling to the east of us.
Okay, and noticing that in terms of the building design, it's all steps, so it's not accessible?
Yeah, ours is not, so ours isn't certainly not accessible. The units are going to be around 1,000 square feet, which is more towards families. Anything more than 800 square feet, looking at more of a family. These are going to be 1,000 square foot units, so that's more into a 3-bedroom for a family. That's what we're looking to
Families
go
that
for.
have accessibility needs.
I recognize that out there. I do a lot of project for accessibility. This particular project on this current design, we're looking more for families to move into this neighborhood. There's a number of schools nearby, and the college is nearby as well. Certainly families are welcome here, but you know, if the change design, certainly. I like what Portland does. Portland allows up to 4 units on R1 zone land. 3 is permitted, and the 4th has to be accessible. I've talked to the director of Portland a number of times about that project. That's something I think Winnipeg should consider, is that if you want like a 4-plex as of right, that 4th unit should be fully accessible.
No further questions?
I'm presuming you'd like to move forward with this plan and not have to change the design to...
I'd like to come back for plan approval at the Real Community Committee. And I've said this before at a number of public hearings, as well as to my clients. Anything that we come forward at a public hearing, I expect it to be changed. Don't fall in love with the design, because we still have to go through a building code review. We still have to go through a process and continuing to engage with elected officials of what they think is appropriate into the neighborhood. To get to that point of being able to get a design, and construction might not be. Certainly, I'm doing projects along Bristol Avenue that I believe were at public hearings like 2-3 years ago, and the change of the design for multiple, for those plexes changed a number of times up to this spring. So the change of the design is always evolving to something. And just a quick update on the Bristol one that was at public hearings before. We met with a neighbor, and they did not want a wood barrier fence between the properties. So then the design changes when we engage the neighbors again and continue to do so.
And you've engaged neighbors on this one?
The neighbor helped me put the sign up on the poster in the backyard, so yeah, he was okay. I didn't catch his name, but generally they were okay with it. Whenever I'm walking around the neighborhood taking a lot of pictures, sometimes people will ask me what I'm doing, and I told them I was doing a parking study and when I was for the project here, and I didn't hear any kind of negative feedback.
Okay, well, just based on what Councillor Chambers said, like and I don't know where we're at in the delegations.
I'm still just at the applicant,
The
but
Q&A. Okay, if this development were to be approved, given there may be opposition, I've got to keep that in mind. I guess I'm thinking the Councillor Chambers' point, like if it's even possible, like imposing a condition having 1 accessible suite, is that something that's in the world of possibility in your
Yeah, that's
plan?
always in the world possibility. I'm promoted it and advocated it, and we have an accessible parking stall at the back. And
So I guess I'm asking if I don't know that I do. You may know more than I do on that. But if I have the ability to impose like 1 accessible suite, is that something that would be acceptable to you as the landowner?
Yeah, my client is certainly agreeable to that. So am I. Like I said, I will promote it with my client, and I always do. I like accessibility. There's an accessible parking stall. I like accessibility because you can define it better under the building code. So when it comes in for a review at the building code stage, you can identify it better as what is accessible. At the affordable dwelling units, I'm sure you've heard this, that's a lot more challenging to do because the city can't really police that, whereas accessibility is a building code item under design that you can really more enforce. So absolutely, yeah, I fully agree with it. As long as I'm getting 3 units, I'm happy to do an accessible unit.
And that was, I mean, I think there was one slide that showed the parking lot, and it showed it as an
Yeah.
accessible parking lot. So I was kind of.
Yeah, we always I always try to get
Why you would have an accessible parking stall, but no accessibility to the building.
Yeah, I'm promoting it, and I would encourage the city of Winnipeg to go in that direction, that if you're going to allow, and that I know those discussions are happening, that if you're going to allow these infill units, you actually mandate at least one of them to be fully accessible. I think there's some discussion with the infill designers as well as the builders to make sure that's accommodable. It's done in other cities. I think I told you about Portland, is that if you're doing this, okay, but if you want that 4th unit, it should be fully accessible. And there's a great growing need out there. Our housing stock has to reflect our population.
Okay, and the second condition, which I was getting to before, is in the event where those 2 trees can't be saved, there's obviously the 1 tree that's probably going to have to go down. would a condition such as at plan approval that there be, I don't know, like one net new tree, would that?
I would, again, this is discussions I've had going back 10 years, is you can mandate also a tree in the boulevard, like.
Well, I do all sorts of things, as you know, in zoning agreements, and I take it as an opportunity to push certain things like mode shift and trees, but I also look to try to get, I guess, consent from the proponent, so
Yeah,
the project doesn't get torpedoed at some later date.
We're happy to work with the ward councillor and elected officials to come forward at a plan approval that is palatable for getting a building permit.
Okay, so I'm looking at two things. One is one accessible suite, and the other would be one net new tree relative to what is being presented today.
Yeah, I think it's actually, and I could be correct me wrong, under the infill design guidelines, I'm required to have like 4 shrubs and a tree. I'm not sure when those will come into effect for this property, but I think that's in one of the proposals in the text amendment. So by the time I actually start coming forward, my expectation would be I would be trying to meet that infill design guideline with, I believe it's 4 shrubs in the front and 1 tree in the front yard. That's, I think, going to be mandated in the new zoning bylaw.
So, be the future zoning bylaw as it may and may not be, I think I'm hearing that you and/or your client would be amenable to, I mean, I heard a more general statement, but if I were to propose this development to be approved with an accessible suite and one net new tree as what was proposed today, I think there's 1, 2, 3. So there would be 4 trees, I guess, at the end
Sure.
of the process.
And my client gets a 3-unit triplex, which is what they're looking for, with 3 parking stalls.
I see the public service has some language.
Yeah.
So you're in line with the public service recommendation, you'd be okay with adding the tree condition, and you would be okay with the accessible unit?
For 3 units and 3 parking stalls, yes.
3 and 3? Is that a public service?
That's what they applied for, and that's what we recommend approval.
So, okay, everything's aligning here?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation this morning.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, you might want to stay. We have no registered participants for, in support, in opposition, or for information. I'll look to the gallery to see if anybody would like to speak with an opinion on 259 Dumoulin Street. Seeing none? Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be any questions for the public service at this point?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I know that I saw that there are 3 trees, 2 may come down, 1 will come down. So at the end of the process, I would like to see 4 trees. Then we get 1 net new.
Recommendation would be to just identify how many new trees you might want. A lot of times, how close they are, even that hopeful tree might still come down. There is a lot of impact on the roots that we've come to see, so then if the desire is to have 4 trees on the site, then, you can provide a little bit of flexibility to the satisfaction of the director of property planning and development, just to sort of say, like, if they can retain the tree, but it becomes a little bit challenging to track what occurs beyond construction.
Okay. So
We can add also.
hearing that, I would have a question for the proponents
Okay.
in terms of a new condition, which would be just adding 4 net new trees.
Okay.
Then we know we're going to get the 4 net new.
4,
We're going to be at least 1 ahead. If all the trees die, we're at least going to be 1 ahead.
4 net new trees?
So
Wouldn't
imposing a condition of 4 trees.
that- Okay, well, they wouldn't be.
4 new
net
trees.
New, only 1 would be net new.
Well, if the 2 that are possible to,
If you have 3 and you want 4, 1 would.
no,
be
I
net
want
new.
4 new,
You want 4 new.
and
so
2
you want-
2 may live, so there could be 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically my question to the proponent.
Do you want a condition prepared for an arborist for oversight or anything like that?
I think 4 net new trees
Is good.
is, 2 may come down, 4 net new trees, we need to have like a cycle of life with older trees and younger trees. I don't want to get into the specific types, maybe delegated authority to the director on how the 4 net new trees should be incorporated in the plan approval.
Okay, and that will be coming back to Real because of the North St. B plan will have
Oh,
the
has that
requirement,
condition?
so,
Okay.
yeah.
So, in terms of the rear yard, then, would they be, like, I'm just looking at the size of the rear yard. Is that where you would see them planting those new trees, or? Because I don't know that the front yard would accommodate.
I'm kind of tree agnostic at this point, as long as the director can work with the proponent and find
Find
the
a
right
space.
place for 4 new trees. I think that would be a tree win for Winnipeg.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just for my understanding, I'm under the impression that the the one accessible unit would be a part of the conditional use, and where would the landscaping fall under?
It might depend, we might have to modify that a little bit depending on what the discussion is, so I can get you an amendment on that one. But it'd essentially be that in addition to the landscaping plan, we'll say 3 because there's required to plant a tree. So it'd be, or do you want to compare it to the site itself right now?
I'm wondering which application it falls under. Is it also
All
under the
conditional
DC?
use, All on the conditional use.
I think that at the end of the day, I would like to see 4 net new trees
Okay.
and have hope for the 2 that are existing.
Okay.
And you're saying there's a requirement for 1?
Well, there's a requirement to plant 1, so if it's the net new and sort of
Oh,
assessing
what
that
is
is the
it then I
kind of-
mean by new?
Well, because there's already going to be 1 to be
So,
planted.
okay, well, an additional 3 to the usual 1.
Okay,
So we're gonna get 4 new trees and maybe 2 live.
okay,
So there could be anywhere from 4 new trees to 4 new trees and 2
Existing.
existing.
okay.
Okay.
So do you still need the proponent?
Well, yeah, we haven't talked about this specifically, so.
At this point, it would make sense for him to come in rebuttal. We don't have any other participants.
So I would have proposed delegated authority to the director. However, it's the North St. Maud secondary plans comes back. But I would like things to come back with 4 new trees.
Yeah, my only suggestion is that you actually have language in there in the type of tree, deciduous or coniferous, and if it's, deciduous, it's like minimum caliper size.
Well, I was going to leave that to the discretion of the director.
I'd like to have language in there that says either deciduous tree, 3.5-inch caliper, because then it's a little bit more.
Tell me what you like to see in terms of trees.
I like deciduous, which is the leafy tree.
Yeah.
Not the coniferous. If you want coniferous, that's fine too. I know some councilors like coniferous trees.
Okay,
So
so
it just provides more, throughout the year.
Yeah, so coniferous trees is the cone shape, and usually the minimum size at planting is 6 feet tall. A deciduous tree at the time of planting is usually 3.5-inch caliper. I would ask that you try to specify the conditions because it actually is more easier to police or enforce. We want to make sure there's a substantial tree being planted there, and that's on paper of what you're kind of looking for.
Okay.
The specific type of tree, whether it's, I'm not saying it's a green ash or black fall marigold or white spruce or whatever, just leave it deciduous or coniferous, and then at the time of construction, planting, and plant approval you come forward with, it's a 3.5 caliper tree.
but you prefer deciduous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a leafier tree. It grows nicely. It can grow pretty quickly. So usually use that to block the top of a building, whereas a coniferous tree, we use that for screening more if you're trying to block like a parking lot or something like that, because it spreads out on the bottom.
Can we put a
You can put mixtures if you want.
coniferous tree on the north side for passive
Yeah.
cooling, passive heating in the,
Yes?
yeah?
Yeah, those work better on the north. I would say we would put that in the front yard. You can see I have a nice coniferous tree in the front yard and a mixture of deciduous trees if you want that.
Front yard would be
Facing the south,
so that would block the sun and
yes,
it would block the wind?
yes.
Okay, so 2 coniferous trees in the front,
Okay.
At which
At 6 foot tall time of planting,
6 foot tall, time of planting with what caliper?
So caliper is used for the deciduous trees, and the height of the tree is used for planting the
okay.
coniferous.
So no caliper on the,
Yeah, so that's for the leafy tree.
okay. And then the other two to be deciduous trees
3.5-inch caliper at the time of planting.
at 3.5-inch caliper at the time of planting.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, did you get that? We usually go in circles on calipers and heights and.
Well, I'm also aware.
Appreciate the suggestion, and now there's certainty, and we know we're going to get quality products. So.
What we're trying to avoid, and I've had this happen many years ago when I used to work in the city of Winnipeg, is I asked for a tree and they planted a tree and it was a seedling. That wasn't the idea. We wanted, but they met the letter of the law, so then you have to specify the minimum size at the time of planting.
Okay. So you're agreeable to that, you're agreeable to an accessible suite, and we'll leave it to the delegated authority director to work with the proponent in terms of coming up with a plan that now has to come back to Riel anyway? Okay.
So is caliper more related to the size or the maturity of the tree?
Yeah, the size, so it's like the thickness of the trunk, essentially. The thicker the trunk, the bigger the caliper. The coniferous trees, they measure in height.
Speaks to both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some trees grow faster than other trees. If we would get into those details, and usually we'll get into the type of tree closer to plant approval because we'll see what's out there and available at a garden nursery for that season and get into the correct type of either what specific leafy tree.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the descriptions as proposed.
And then the building code for accessible.
Yeah, yeah, that's understood as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I have no new questions for the proponent.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I would have motions, yeah. Gotta find the right
Thank you.
screen, I guess. Thank you. Okay, so this is for. Okay, just changing my Zoom so I can read it better. So my intent is to move the Winnipeg Public Service recommendation with those two changes, the 4 net new trees, at the calipers that were described for the deciduous trees.
Went with his
And
suggestion.
yes, and then 6-foot trees for the coniferous trees to be planted in the front.
The front is the north?
The front
Yeah.
is the,
South, wait, I think it's.
no, south,
South yard.
which is what we want, 'cause
South
it blocks the sun and
Yeah.
it blocks the wind in the winter.
Yes, the morning sun.
You can,
In the, yeah,
Coniferous trees on the south side. This
the
is,
south yard, or, yeah, south side, that's fine.
okay.
yeah. And that one of the units, and that the floor grade unit be an accessible unit.
Okay, so it's not one of the 3 units, it's the floor grade unit.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So I'll get into my motions. Clerks, are you okay with clerks and public service
I would
language?
just like to
this-
clarify the plan approval aspect, is that's already included?
There's a requirement in the secondary plan.
So I can't say delegated approval to the director? No?
No, because it'll have
Okay.
to come through both.
Okay. So the plan will be presented, the intent is clear, I think. The language should be clear as to the letter of the law. So, clear enough?
Well, it's being dealt with at the DCU aspect, so I think we're okay to proceed with the rezoning as it's presented.
Okay, so this, I'm not adding the conditions now? Or I'm adding the condition on the unit now and later on, or is it at the plan approval? that that gets done?
We suggested put it into the conditional use order.
Yes.
So then, yeah, and then just in general, the plan approval is just a requirement of the secondary plan, so
Right.
there's no need to add it anywhere.
Okay, so on the first script, okay, I'm gonna start. You guys stop me
So
if I'm doing the
the
wrong
D
thing.
Z.
So I move that so I'm on report 4.
Right.
I move that report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in part, and that the following conditions be added.
I think that at
That
the
we're doing that
zoning,
later?
we're fine in the zoning, but the DCU is where we'll put
Okay,
in the
so
conditions.
I'm just going stock. Okay, I'll start again on this motion. I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee
I think
on
that
property and development since I'm making amendments?
it's amendments on the next application, so this one is good to proceed to EPC.
Okay, they don't go
Because we
together.
have no
Okay,
opposition.
so I'll start again. I move that the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the Executive Policy Committee via the priority rezoning process. Supporting reasons, this is in line with the secondary plan. We have a proponent going over and above in terms of adding an accessible unit, which is not a requirement, but it will be. And that, you know, that's part of the ASZ, if I got that right. And we see a proponent going over and above on the trees and thinking on our feet. Coniferous trees on the south side means blocking the sun in the summer, which means a cooler home, and in the winter, blocking the wind. Well, actually, we'd want them in the back. So we're winning on the sun. We're not winning on the we're not winning on the wind. So there's some benefit there, but it's over and above the requirement, which would have been 1, and so we're going to get a net new 4. There's also the possibility of 2 surviving the process. So, I mean, in large part because this is in line with the secondary plan, but we're getting additional benefits to the community on top of that.
Yeah, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this particular matter. This will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the rezoning application. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay.
It's a council or APC?
Eventually,
Okay.
Okay, conditional use? 5?
correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
DCU.
Okay. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that in accordance with section 254 and subsection 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the conditional use is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial, there's been a change, I think, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. And I'll leave my supporting reasons to be the same as prior, and I would like to add those conditions. Is it that time?
After we are going to call the question on your,
Okay, so
this
moved.
motion, then we'll move on to the recommendation being concurred in.
Okay, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
So I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in part. Or
With amendments?
With amendments.
Okay, so,
Including?
so some wording that I have on the accessible suite is that the floor grade unit shall be an accessible unit as per the Manitoba Building Code definition to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, Property and Development. And then for the trees that I have, that 4 net new trees shall be planted on the subject property with 2 coniferous trees on the south side, planted at 6 feet tall, and 2 deciduous trees at 3.5-inch caliper at time of planting. I don't know, does this also require satisfaction of director, or we're pretty descriptive?
It just gives a little bit of flexibility to.
I feel like flipping them now, but we can deal with it at plan approval.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Like the coniferous in the north and deciduous in the south. Anyway,
It's an easy enough change to make.
yeah. Anyway, we'll do it. We'll talk about it later.
The only thing that we don't want to do is plant trees near entranceways or,
Yeah.
Leave it open, that's good.
well, in terms of
Okay.
septic.
Oh, of course, yeah. But we'll have that at plan approval. It has to come back here.
Do you want them to find where they're going to go, or do you want to just deal with that through plan approval?
We'll deal with, I don't want to make it more complicated. I don't want to call back the applicant, so we can
Okay.
All right.
deal with it at plan approval.
Okay, I understand the intent.
Okay, so,
So those are the amendments, and that the
and
conditional use be approved.
yeah, and that the conditional use be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
So the
Yeah.
committee's decision with respect to the conditional use may be appealed. Should you wish to do so, information on how to do so is included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Number 6.
St. Boniface, when you build a building, you need to change 3 parts of the zoning bylaw. Okay, so on number 6, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effects of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. I will leave my supporting reasons to be the same.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in, and that the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The committee's decision with respect to the variance may be appealed. Should you wish to do so, information on how to do so is included in the order issued, and that will be mailed to all persons registered.
Brad.
Okay, so I understand Councillor Allard must take a leave. Not sure if yourself and Councillor Mays want to take a break or...
Yeah, are you fine with taking a quick break, maybe half hour for some lunch and buy a break? Okay, yeah. Okay,
So do
I
we wanna
will
say
call
we-
recess for half hour. We can reconvene at 12:30, 12:35,
12:35.
just to have a quick break.
Call today's meeting back to order. If you're observant, you'll notice Councillor Allard's out and I'm in for this one. This is item number 7 we're dealing with. This is the secondary, and I'm sure there are a lot of people here for the LeMay Forest item or whatever the technical street number is, but these things are numbered as they're numbered. So secondary plan amendment for lands bounded by Marion Street, Dawson Road North, Spears Road, CP Rail to the west and south, which has been referred to as the Public Markets redevelopment, the Old Canada Packers site, the Water Tower District. We've had 3 names over about 7 years here, but maybe longer. In any event, let's roll.
Sounds good. As indicated, item 7 is a secondary plan amendment at lands bounded by Marion Street, Dawson Road North, Spears Road, the CP Railway to the west and south. It's file SPA 4, 2024. Additional communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee as they were received after agenda posting. The process the committee will follow is that the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those in opposition, and those registered for information. And the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted. Participants over Zoom are being muted, and they will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you've been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. It causes some feedback for us in the chamber. And then at this point, I would hand it over to our a new planner who's joining us now for a brief overview.
Hi there. Public Markets Secondary Plan, which provides a vision, objectives, and policies to ensure the orderly development within a major redevelopment site of complete communities, was adopted in June of 2020. The plan is approximately 222 acres in size and is bounded by Marion Street to the north, the CN Sprague rail line to the east, a single-family residential neighborhood to the south, and CP Emerson rail line to the west. The plan area is surrounded by rail lines and a rail yard. As illustrated in Figure 3 of the admin report, the plan is organized into 3 policy areas: an employment policy area, a commercial policy area, and a high residential density policy area. A majority of the plan area is designated employment policy area. The higher density residential policy area is confined to the western portion of the plan area. The plan includes 2 collector road connections to Marion Street. One at Dupuy Avenue, as identified as item A on figure 3 of the admin report. This connection is also known as Paulette Duguay Street. And another one at 265 Marion Street identified as item B on figure 3. The plan requires that this connection be established by the developer prior to more than 600 dwelling units being established in the plan area. A third collector road connection into the plan area is located at Spears, which is Spears Road, which is identified as item C on figure 3 of the admin report. The location of a proposed roundabout at the intersection of Paulette Duguay and Ibrahima Diallo Avenue is identified as item D in figure 3. The plan currently includes the following limitations and requirements related to residential uses. Buildings west of Paulette Duguay Street, marked as A in figure 3, cannot exceed 10 stories and 100 feet. Buildings east of Paulette Duguay Street cannot exceed 6 stories and 70 feet, or 70 feet in height. The number of dwelling units in the plan area is limited to 1,200 units. However, only 600 dwelling units are currently permitted until an emergency access into the plan area has been established and a second collector road connection marked B in figure 3 has been established to Marion. Now, during the creation of the plan, the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service raised concerns related to emergency access into and out of the plan area, which requires crossing one of the 3 sets of railway tracks. In response to concerns raised by the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service, an emergency access evaluation study was undertaken by the proponent, which estimated emergency response coverage and times in the plan area, considering population and rail crossing blockages. The emergency access evaluation study estimated that approximately 30 emergency calls per year would encounter a blocked railway crossing based on 1,200 dwelling units in the plan area. It was estimated having only 600 dwelling units in the plan area would reduce the number of emergency calls delayed by a blocked railway crossing to 15 per year. In response, the policies were included in the plan to limit development to 600 dwelling units. Up to 1,200 units is permitted if a third access into the plan area is established at the expense of the developer and an emergency access is created. In April of 2024, the Urban Planning and Design Division received an application to amend the Public Markets Secondary Plan bylaw. The proposed amendments are included as items 1 through 8 of Appendix C of the admin report. If approved by Council, these proposed amendments would result in the following changes to the plan. Increase the maximum number of dwelling units permitted in the plan area from 1,200 to 2,000, provided that a predictive rail crossing blockage alert system is implemented to the satisfaction of the Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service and the Planning, Property and Development Department. An increase in the permitted maximum height of multi-unit residential buildings from 10 stories to 14 stories west of Paulette Duguay Street, and 6 to 14 stories in the area approximately 80 meters east of Paulette Duguay Street. Remove the requirement for an emergency access road into the plan area, and also remove the requirement that the developer establish the second collector road connection to Marion Street prior to the development of more than 600 units in the plan area. The requirement for a predictive rail crossing blockage alert system is in response to findings of the emergency access evaluation study undertaken by the proponent during the adoption of the plan, which estimated response coverage and times in the plan area. One of the major issues identified at the time of the study was that emergency vehicles would not be aware of rail crossing blockages until one was encountered. The crew would then inform 911 dispatch of the blockage, and a second dispatch call would be made from a different direction. A predictive rail crossing blockage alert system would allow 911 dispatch to anticipate the rail crossing blockage at the time of the initial dispatch and dispatch emergency vehicles from a different location immediately. The public service is supportive of the proposed amendments, provided that access to Marion Street from Paulette Duguay Street remains accessible in the event of a blockage at the roundabout at Paulette Duguay Street and Ibrahima Diallo Avenue. In order to ensure that access to Marion Street remains navigable in the event of a blockage at the roundabout, the Public Service is recommending that the proposed amendment include 2 additional policies. First, that Paulette Duguay Avenue is developed as a 4-lane divided roadway from Marion Street to a median opening 130 meters south of Marion Street, as illustrated in Figure 9 of the admin report. And second, that easements across private property be used to bypass the roundabout at Paulette Duguay Street and Ibrahima Diallo Avenue in the event of a blockage. These 2 additional amendments proposed by the Public Service are included as items 9 and 10 of Appendix C. And with that, we have no other concerns or recommendations.
Any questions for the admin?
No, just, yeah, I know that there is a call for more density here, and that's already been reviewed, so thank you.
I feel like I spent 8 or 9 hours in here on the night of June 6th, 2020, with Councillor Allard, listening to everyone from the fire department, and just on it went about emergency access. So now we're saying we can add 60%, 67%, 800 on a base of 1,200, more units, but we need less, we need care less. We have less concern about emergency access because we're putting all of our money on this predictive rail crossing technology.
If you're asking that as a question, I'd say that's accurate, correct.
How? I mean, you weren't here. I don't think you were here.
Mr. Kostiak,
It was so the fire ambulance are fine with this then?
So yes, there was a consultation with Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service. They're aware of the potential elevated risk, and they have no concerns. They felt that their concerns would be alleviated by the addition or the implementation of the predictive rail crossing alert system.
Okay.
It's the predictive rail crossing system, because I know that they're also using a system with red and green lights so that they can control intersections for safe passage. Wasn't that part of this plan as well?
No, that's not. This is just strictly related to the rail crossings.
Okay. So is there a prescribed or a predicted time that, rail transfers throughout the day, like early in the morning, once in the afternoon, in the evening, or is it unpredictable in terms of freight that they're carrying?
The initial emergency access study that was done made certain assumptions. Regardless, the idea of this system is that it would, once it's implemented, it would be real time. It would know when a train is coming and when it will be blocking an intersection in the future, a crossing that is.
Yeah, but there's predictability to that, but there's no predictability to emergency situations that arise from time to time. So how does one play with the other?
Well, as I understand it, the system under review right now would, if a crossing, it predicts when a crossing would be
Impacted.
but not just using statistics. It would know as a train is going down the tracks that in 2 minutes it's going to be at this location and it's this long, so therefore it's going to impact that crossing for this length of time. That's something we can't do right now.
Okay, so then it reroutes the emergency response to a different crossing, or what happens?
Correct. Then 911 dispatch would know, for instance, to dispatch from the east as opposed to the west. Because right now, the way it would work is the initial response crew would, from the west, say, just for an example, might take 3.5 minutes to get to the rail crossing and then discover that it's blocked. They would then tell 911 dispatch that it's blocked, and then 911 dispatch would then dispatch from a different, like from the east. So again, then that takes another 3.5 minutes for them to arrive. So now you've used 7 minutes just to get to the emergency. With this system, if integrated properly, it would allow for dispatched units to be dispatched from a more advantageous location right off the bat.
So there was a consolidation of fire stations, one on Marion that is being relocated into Windsor Park. Would this have been an issue if the consolidation did not happen?
I believe the initial analysis looked at 20-plus different scenarios, including ones where that station existed and ones where it did not exist. But yes, that would impact the response time, as I understand it.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. On we roll.
Sounds good. So we have an applicant team for this file. Call down Susan Russell and Robert Scaletta. I understand that there are 3 members of the applicant team. They have registered separately. Would be allotted 10 minutes each. And Jackie Wilkie is joining us via Zoom with the presentation.
Welcome. Every Olympic year, we like to have you come down and talk about this proposal, so we'll see you again in 2028.
Or Euro Cup year, you know, Euro Cup's going on right now. And I'll speak briefly first, and then Susan will take over right after me. Okay, get my notes ready.
46.
Well done.
Councilors Mays, no more Councilor Eller, but Councilor Chambers, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the secondary plan amendment for the Public Markets Project Water Tower District. On behalf of the owner and the design team, we'd like to thank the City of Winnipeg administration, including the long-range planning, the WFPS, Public Works, for a truly collaborative process in this engagement. We also like to thank the industrial and commercial stakeholders and the residents that participated in the public engagement process. Their time and value input was very well deserved for us. Give a bit of a secondary plan history here. For the time of the council approval of secondary plan 2020, the number of factors have changed that impact the development that participated in the request to increase our density. The current housing shortage of Winnipeg requires more units to meet community needs. The City of Winnipeg has a new policy for maximizing residential density. The intent to maximize housing based on servicing capacity for each area. There is a need for affordable housing, and to achieve this, there needs to be an increase in density to reduce the land cost per unit. In 2023, Council approved the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund policies and the Complete Communities Direction 2.0, outlined the importance of maximizing residential density to provide much-needed housing and affordable housing, and the importance of using full capacity of water, storm, and sanitation sewer services to reduce the overall development cost and the city's long-term maintenance costs. The capacity of the existing storm and sanitary services can support 2,000 dwellings in the Canada Packers, or the former Canada Packers site, in addition to the approved commercial and industrial developments.
Are you outside of CSO district then?
We outside of the CS, what's that, sorry?
You're not in a combined sewer district then?
We will, in our area, we'll be separating it. So our area become complete separation in our area. Actually, all the undergrounds are put in now. The federal government recently approved a grant for the installation of maintenance and maintenance of a predictive rail crossing information system to improve the emergency response times. Alexa will be providing funding for the funding support. In the 2020 Dillon Engineering Report that you guys were discussing, the report clearly confirmed that the new development road network will provide a 96% improvement to emergency access to the public market lands and the industrial lands on the north side of Marion Street, and a significant improvement in response times. The federal funding for the supply, installation, and operation of a TrainFo system was recently awarded to the city with will further improve emergency response times. With Trainfo, additional emergency access and a secondary connection to Marion are not required. This is supported by the WFPS. Next slide. There you go. Just a bit of a history. July 23rd, 2020, Council approved the public market secondary plan. June 24th, 2021, Council approved the public market subdivision rezoning and road openings. And of May 21 of this year, 2024, plan of subdivision rezoning have been registered in land titles. Next slide, please. So the approved development plan, the council approved development plans include 1,200 multifamily unit residential housing in yellow on that map there, approximately 25.2 acres. This will include at least 120 affordable housing units in light of the well-documented housing shortage and recent council-approved policies supporting greater housing density in the area such as the public markets lands. The developers are requesting an increase of 800 residential units to maximize 2,000 units with a minimum of about 200 affordable units. These additional units will also include 3-bedroom family units and accessible units. We're also working with an independent living group, so there'll be independent living there as well. Approximately 3,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial, that's in the brown area there, and office, commercial and office adjacent to Marion. And approximately 1 million square feet of light industrial, which is the purple area, to the east side of the site. 2 large parks with full-size soccer fields, baseball diamond, potential community gardens, playgrounds, and we're looking at, and that's all in the green area there, and also pickleball courts we'll probably look at doing there too. Road network connections to Marion and Spears, the project engineers confirmed that second connection to Marion is not needed for traffic volumes, which WSP is our engineer. Transit service on Ibrahim Diallo Boulevard, the development's most east-west road, and integrated, you can see this, the transit stops along there. An integrated system of walkways, pathways, and active transportation all throughout the development. Full range of services, wastewater, water, and land drainage have all been in capacity to support 2,000 units. We're also making an application with the Efficiency Manitoba to explore the geothermal district for this development. So we actually had an application in there, and it's getting some great support. And we have a number of multifamily developers that are actually pounding our doors down to start building multifamily. So I believe the 25 acres will be consumed and developed within the next 5 to 10 years, where you'll have your 2,000 units, which will actually enhance the commercial sector as well. So thank you, and I'm going to pass it on to Susan.
Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak. With regards to the secondary plan amendments, there are 4 categories. There's 8 amendments in total. The first 4 deal with increasing the allowable residential units from 1,200 to 2,000, and that's essentially in the area where you see the yellow buildings. Increasing the allowable residential building height from 10 or 100 feet, 10 stories or 100 feet to 14 stories, 150 feet in the central area only. Removing the developer's requirement to acquire right-of-way for the second connection to Marion, connecting to, the second one connecting to Marion, because it's just simply not required anymore. And then removing the unnecessary additional emergency access because of the implementation of Trainfo. So I will just go over this in a little bit more detail. We'll skip quickly through. I will look at the summary of proposed secondary plan amendments as we go through each one of them. So the first couple of charts there, Jackie, if you can go through them quickly, 7 and 8, all deal with the increase from 1,200 to 2,000 units, and also with the building heights. So if we move to the map, Jackie, then I can talk about each one of them related to that, probably the best way to do it. So the area highlighted in yellow is what will be affected by the increase in the number of dwelling units from 1,200 to 2,000. As Robert had said, that this is supported by the new Housing Accelerator Fund policies and the Complete Communities Direction Strategies. that outline the importance of maximizing residential densities to provide much-needed housing and affordable housing, and the importance of using the full capacity of the water, storm, and sanitary sewer services that have already been installed. This reduces overall development costs and city long-term maintenance costs when you maximize the use of your services. WSP confirmed the existing services and road network can accommodate the 2,000 units. Water and Waste concurred with WSP's findings. Public Works concurred with WSP that the existing road network supports the additional traffic volumes. They did have concern with a blockage issue, which we'll talk about in a second. WFPS agreed with modifications based on the implementation of a predictive rail crossing blockage alert system. The next one is related to the increase in the maximum building heights, and that's that much smaller yellow area that you see on your screen right now. It deals with just Block 1, Lots 2 and 3, and a small little corner of the other one across Paulette Duguay. We had a discussion with the industrial stakeholders. There was a public consultation process that Jackie will go over in a little bit more detail later. But with regards to the industrial stakeholders, there was some concern with odor, but this is mitigated through existing policies. And these existing policies are aimed at minimizing any concerns related to odor and/or noise generated by existing industrial uses. Existing policies within the actual document as it exists require all residential units to be climate controlled with noise attenuation features, and require signage notifying residents of the existing industrial uses. Now we will go through the policies that relate to the removing the requirement to acquire the right-of-way. So if we can go directly to the slide, Jackie, just to save time. So you see two yellow bars. The first yellow bar deals with the requirement to acquire right-of-way from the adjacent property owners to the north for the second collector road connection to Marion. This developer will retain the right-of-way so that in the future, if other areas within this MRSD end up getting developed, that may be required in the future. But right now, we know that it's not required from a traffic standpoint. However, Public Works was concerned about a potential blockage on the single lane of Paulette Duguay between the roundabout and within the roundabout, between the roundabout and Marion. And so a solution has been proposed and has been accepted by Public Works, which Jackie will go over in a little bit more detail. But essentially, the roundabout will be replaced with a three-way stop, a T intersection, and the north-south collector road from Marion to the first driveway south of Ibrahima Diallo will be four-lane divided so that you don't have any issues with that anymore. And then the last thing, remove unnecessary emergency access. WFPS agreed with the modifications based on the implementation of a predictive rail crossing blockage alert system and the provision of an emergency vehicle access route. And this is where I wanted to go next. So give us a little bit more time to talk about this. So with regards to the provision of an emergency access vehicle route that bypasses the intersection at Marion and Paulette Duguay, there would be one that would be established as bylaw through access agreements on the commercial site to the west side of the intersection. And that was reviewed with Winnipeg Fire and Protection Services. And then the last thing is the predictive rail crossing blockage alert system. So if we can spend a little bit of time on that. So with regards to TRAMFO, the emergency response times will further be improved. First of all, the emergency response times are improved already with the new roads that have already been constructed or in the process of being constructed. They improved response times and the access by 96% of what exists right now, just with those two new roads. But the emergency response times will be further improved by TRAMFO. Federal funding for the supply, installation, and operation of the system was recently approved. The public markets developer will pay for the city's portion of the required funding for the public markets lands crossing and also for additional crossings throughout the city. So on that map, you can see in the central area are the predictive systems that will be installed that will specifically assist with the prediction of train crossings at the three crossings related to the public market site. But there's also ones that are proposed in the Transcona area, and there's also ones that are proposed to the west as well. So those will all be part of this first thing. How the TrainFlow system works to reduce first responder delays at rail crossings and thereby further improve emergency response times and improve grade crossing safety and traffic issues. It uses a sensor network to monitor all rail crossings. Those are the little purple items that are purpley red. It integrates data into new dispatch systems for WFPS to support responders in avoiding active crossings. And then it uses message boards and beacon systems to communicate crossing information to motorists. And those are the green, I believe those are the green ones that are on that board there. Also tied to the city Waze system. And the data includes crossing status, train movement, moving or stopping stopped, and predicted start and end times of crossing. So these custom-built sensors are designed specifically to monitor rail crossings. Once they're installed, it only takes about 2 weeks. There are other systems on the market, but this one only takes 2 weeks for it to be up and running. The sensors send real-time data to TrainFlow software to produce information on current and future train movements. This information is shared through mobile apps, 911 systems, transit systems, traffic signal systems, roadside signs, and really anywhere you want to use it. And so I think that's it. TrainFlow has demonstrated the ability to improve congestion, grade crossing safety, and 911 response times, and the City of Winnipeg has been involved in tests with TrainFlow, where congestion at the Shaftesbury crossing was reduced by 24%, and models showed that roughly 80% of the responder delays at crossing can be eliminated. And that's it.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, quick question. The City of Winnipeg Transit is moving to a new system, June of next year. Have you had a chance to look and overlay how that new transit system, the spine and feeder network, will impact on this development or vice versa?
Transit is very interested in this site, and they've already taken an active interest in terms of actually one of their routes will be going through. I didn't bring all of that with me. Maybe I have it. We had slides in the original presentation about all of those things. I didn't bring it. Oh, look at that, Jackie. Yes. So you've got all the way along Ibrahim Diallo. There would be a transit route that would go all the way through there, essentially from the get-go. And then you've got frequent service. Jackie can answer this a little bit better than I can later.
531.
Yeah. Route 531. Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, we talk to transit all the time.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
At the time, when we were here in 2020, wasn't the request for 1,200 units?
Yes. And now we're at 2,000.
To me, it's a big, I mean, what gives way? Is it just, nothing gives way, it's just higher?
No,
rates and-
everything was installed, the traffic network, everything is always installed with a buffer, and that buffer was that 2,000 units. So now with the need for housing, the housing crisis, it made sense to come forward at that time, coupled with the fact that TrainFlow was then moving forward. So it was like the perfect combination for us to move forward with maximizing this site.
Capacity is there.
Yeah,
We have-
capacity.
Our capacity is already built in, as well as the current zoning of the lands was already, we have to change the zoning of the land for density. It was already in play, like the current zone we have was actually go more than 2,000.
Yeah, we could, but so RMFL, RMFM permits it, as well as we've got RMU, and we've got C2.
Okay. So it's not like there's a loss of,
No, and
Industrial
it's really the right way to go. You're maximizing your services with, so the same amount of services is promoting a greater density. It's allowing a greater density.
And increase of tax revenue as well.
Yes.
In terms of things like AT pathways and corridors and things like that, that's all considered in the residential side of it, and then even leading to the employment lands where somebody may want to commute to work?
It's all in, it's throughout the entire development. We were very, very, very strategic. To give credit to Councillor Lard, that's extremely important to him. So we've got not just, you know how some streets, they've just got the active transportation, they don't have sidewalks. We've got active transportation and sidewalks on every single street throughout the development. We don't end at where you see the purple there. It goes throughout the entire thing. I think Jackie's tracing it right now on the screen.
So you have
She's tracing
sidewalks
it.
on one side of the street and by active transportation on the other side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah, throughout.
I do know in terms of road rehabilitation or reconstruction, Archibald to the north of Marion was done over the last couple of years with AT built right in mind there, right through to St. Boniface. So it would be good to make sure that this network is connected to that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've got an arm that extends all the way across to the rail crossing along Marion that we are doing as well.
Okay.
Very important to us, very important to the councillor. Us, meaning you, the developer, but me too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, you're up next. Do you have anything to add?
Good morning, and thank you. I'm going to be covering a number of items from the report to discuss the consultation that we've done, as well as an update on where we are for construction. So to begin with, the public service report is generally consistent with the application made for the proposed amendment and recommends approval. There are the two additional amendments that were requested are based on an understanding of the traffic situation that we believe we have a simpler solution to address. Public service is asking for a 4-lane divided entry and changes to and the addition of an easement on private property that you can see to the on the plan to the left. This would have 4-lane to the traffic circle or to the intersection at the traffic circle and then changing back down to the single lane each direction. In review by our traffic engineers, they've come up with a solution that's been reviewed with Public Works to have it as a 4-lane divided all the way down to the first access point south of Ibrahim Diallo on Paletke with a T intersection, eliminating the roundabout, which eliminates the potential for blockage on the roundabout. This would give access for contraflow bypass if there is a blockage on any one section, and also gives 2 lanes in each direction to allow for better traffic flow through the site. For construction and the development, it's progressing with the underground utilities are installed completely. Roads are constructed to approximately 75% of the development, and both retention ponds have been dug and are starting their naturalization process. So work anticipated this summer is the completion of the roads, installation of Manitoba Hydro and streetlights, the naturalization of the ponds, and the outlook is to have at least one residential development starting the process for construction. Hopefully this winter is what the aim is. So on the plan here, you can see everything that's highlighted is all of the utilities in, and the yellow highlight is where the road is constructed to. The image that you see here is shot from August of 2023. We did a public consultation for this secondary plan amendment in January of this year. We contacted stakeholders identified during the initial development process and had focused meetings to understand their concerns. One industrial stakeholder had concerns with potentially having more complaints about malodors, but during our discussions in the meeting, they understood that the existing provisions in the secondary plan and zoning agreement require the developer to advise all residents that there is a potential for odor, and this would apply to any increase in density, as well as the building construction requirements that Susan had mentioned earlier with air conditioning and dampening of sound interior for any sound concerns. The survey results, we have showed overwhelming support for the change, as you can see here. And that is the end of my information. If you have any questions.
Chambers.
Yeah, so you have there, one industrial participant had some concern with malodor complaints. This was previously? It's been
No,
remediated?
this was during our recent stakeholder engagement. There was a concern brought up by one of the industrial stakeholders. This was also brought up during the initial secondary plan and development process, which is why we have the clauses in the secondary plan for the signage on site, noting that this is an area that's adjacent to industrial and there is a potential for odors and noises. And we also have the requirements for the air conditioning and the increased sound dampening in the buildings.
So is this going to be like a situation where you build next to a, Brady landfill, for instance, and then subsequently complain because every time the wind shifts, there's going to be an odor?
That was part of the original discussions back in 2020, and it was covered off with the clauses that are in the secondary plan right now. So it's not going to change anything from those clauses that have already been established.
Can you repeat that last piece there?
That we already have clauses in the existing secondary plan to mitigate for smells or for odors and sound, where we have signage that is required on site, as well as information provided to people who are moving in, that they are moving in next to an industrial area.
So that
And
mitigates the notice, but not the odor. Correct?
Sorry, what was the,
That mitigates the notice. It takes care of the notice, but not the odor.
well, the odor is there right now with the existing residential in the area.
And that's fine. It's just that it's the area councilors that continue to get the calls with respect to issues like this. Why was it approved when, there is this odor right there that, then they ask us to, pass bylaws to stop the business from operating.
Which is why in the secondary plan, there's existing clauses for this, so that it's understood. And we're having signage on the site in 2 locations to notify those who are moving into the neighborhood that this is an existing condition.
Okay. Still doesn't stop the phone calls, but thank you.
Okay, on we go to our next registered speaker.
Thank you. Next up, we have in support Jason Dunn, who is joining us via Zoom.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have no comment unless anyone has a question for me related to sewer and water.
So it seems to me this is within the Mission Sewer District, but everything's been separated out, so there's none of the usual issues with post must equal pre and the total amount going into the system.
Correct. We met the Clause 8 requirements. The land drainage is being directed towards the Seine River to the west. It was originally directed to the combined sewer along Spears Road, which runs to the northwest towards the waste treatment facility. So we've actually disconnected out a lot of the existing overland runoff to that sewer, and we are now directing it out to the Seine River.
Okay. That answers that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up in support, I have registered a Bob Hinkleman. I'm not seeing them in the Zoom session. Is Mr. Hinkleman in the gallery? No? Okay. I will move on. Next up in support, I have Ken Wimble, who I see is joining on Zoom.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ken Wimble. I'm the transportation engineer from WSB who authored the transportation report, the update for the updated number of units. I don't have any specific comments. I think the findings of the report and our discussions with Public Works were summarized well by Susan and Jackie, but I am available to answer any questions that there might be.
Appears there are no questions. Thank you for the delegation.
Thank you.
Next up in support, I have Vanessa Schmidt, who I do not see online in Zoom. Is Vanessa in the gallery? Right, moving on. I do not have anyone else pre-registered in support. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak in support of this application? Okay. I would move on. I have someone registered in opposition to the application. It's Teresa Swick. If you'd like to come down to the podium, please. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Teresa Quick, and I'm with South St. Boniface Residents Association. I'm opposed to increasing the amount of units at the Water Tower District in St. Boniface because that would raise the amount of density in the area to an amount that this area clearly cannot sustain. The developer has doubled the amount of units from 600 to 1,200, and now they want to almost double the amount of units again to 2,000. First, I do not know if the water and sewer infrastructure has been changed to accommodate this high amount of people. To raise the amount of units from 12 to 2,000 units would bring about 5,000 to 6,000 or more people in the area, and is the sewer and water infrastructure able to handle this? Also, the traffic is already congested without any of these new units. What will happen when you put a huge increase in vehicles in the area? A traffic study was apparently done, but they are counting on people not leaving their homes at the same time, people working from home, seniors not driving their cars, everyone taking a bus or riding a bike. But we all know that by increasing the number of units to this huge amount, there will be a substantially greater amount of traffic. You cannot count on people not leaving at the same time or working from home because most people already go to work, and businesses and governments now want everyone to return to the office. Seniors do drive, and no, not everyone will take a bus because they will drive their vehicles. People have to get groceries for their families, and they're not going to be able to carry the groceries on the bus or on a bike. If you do take a bus to shop for groceries and then call a cab, then you're still using a vehicle to get back, but you're just more inconvenienced, and it will cost you much more if you're stuck behind a train. Seniors will most likely not take a bus or bike, as some may not be able to even walk to the bus stop, and they will not be riding a bike. Don't forget that buses and bus stops are not the safest places, and so people will continue to use their vehicles. If people need medical attention, they will drive their cars. They can call a cab, but that is still using a vehicle to get in and out of this area. The city is also closing the only amenity in the area, the pool, and people will have to drive to get to another pool. We should also not forget about the weather. In the winter, people will drive because the roads are full of snow and are icy, and they are too dangerous to drive on, and the temperature in the winter is much too cold. So even with new bike paths, they're not going to not take their cars. Any roads needed to access this development in and out, and because of this development, should be built now at the developer's cost and not later at the cost of the taxpayer. The city may also have to redo roads to accommodate all this extra traffic. If all these units are let in and traffic increases, will Marion Street have to be widened? Will other roads be affected? Will this all be at the taxpayer's expense? Instead of keeping our pool, will we get to pay more taxes for more roads and road repairs? Will properties have to be expropriated? Will people living in the area now lose their houses? Spears and Maginot will probably not be able to handle all the extra traffic, and who will pay for all the extra work that needs to be done here? Also, the developer should not be raising the height of all the buildings to 14 stories. These buildings will ruin the area as they would be too high and do not fit in with this immediate area. When they first made their presentations, they proposed 4 to 6 story buildings, then 7 to 9, then 10. Now they want to change all the 10 stories to 14 and all the 6 stories to 14. That would mean all the buildings in the area could be, and most probably would be, 14 stories. The request for 14 stories in the report did not say for one building, but it reads for all buildings. This is way too high for this area and does not fit in. We do not want our neighborhood to become an extension of downtown. We do not want to bring overcrowding and crime into the neighborhood. What about schools? Are there enough schools in the area that can accommodate all the children that might be living there? If not, who pays for the schools? Will an underpass be needed at the train tracks for an extra traffic and for ambulances and fire trucks? Because when someone is having a heart attack, every second counts. Who pays for this? Who will pay for all the software that was mentioned in the report for the emergency vehicles to be aware of trains? And what if the software breaks or is hacked? What about St. Boniface Hospital, whose emergency room and hospital is already past capacity with horrendous wait times? It does not have the capacity or staff to take in any more people, and people will end up dying. One of the features that they have is that it's a close 2 kilometers to the hospital, but it doesn't help you being that close to the hospital if you can't get in or you're sent someone else. It is easy to want to build all these things, but we need to think about how this will affect the future of the whole area and the current residents and not just the development site. We want to live in this new development and community to thrive and be a healthy and happy place to live, but not at the detriment and expense of the people who currently live here and pay taxes in the area. Let us not also forget the Speedway fire in which the whole area had to be evacuated. Is it a good idea to put over 5,000 people so close to the Mission Industrial Site, which is zoned M3? Can you evacuate this area quickly with so many people with no emergency access road? Firemen could not even put the fire out at first at the Speedway fire, and there were explosions and fireballs. They poured water on the tankers that were left on the tracks to keep them from heating up and exploding, from possibly causing a levee like Lac Megantic. This was one of the reasons we had to evacuate. The CPR main line runs right beside these 14-story apartment buildings. The average train has 100 to 120 cars on this track on a regular basis. That's about a mile to a mile and a half. If one tanker caught on fire or exploded from a projectile from the shredder or any reason, the rest of the tankers down the tracks could catch on fire and explode and cause a levee. This site is also close to the St. Boniface Spur Line, which also carries high-hazard tanker cars. The fire hall on Marion Street that the city is now going to close was the only fire hall that was equipped to fight high-hazard industrial fires. It will no longer be there. Will all the people in the apartments be able to walk down 14 stories of stairs to try and evacuate and get to safety, especially a mother and her two or three children? What if there was just a regular fire in the building? Would people be able to walk down the 14 stories of stairs? Would grandma or grandpa or a disabled person be able to walk down 14 stories of stairs? Would you be able to walk 14 stories of stairs? And remember, there's only 2 roads out for 6,000 people. So they also talk about odors. I think that might be the least of their problems. Has anyone addressed the problems of the toxic soil, air, and water in this area? The constant noise and banging and the noxious smells? Has any testing been done to make sure that this area is safe and that the residents are safe? Houses shake, explosions are loud, odors are not pleasant. But we need to worry about the toxic air, soil, and water that is here. This area would be more suited to some residential, light industrial, and commercial businesses, but not 2,000 units or 14-story high-rises. There's not enough roads to get in and out. There would be less of a detrimental impact on the whole area and the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The 14 stories, though, isn't that set back? Isn't that further? I mean, you were talking about the context of the surrounding neighborhood, but my sense was the 14-story part of this is not right at the edge. It's further in.
I don't know exactly how far in, I have to admit, but there are other buildings that are built on Archibald that are pretty much right beside the track. So is this right beside the track? And this is a lot more people. You've got 6,000 people that may have to get out of that building, the buildings. And why are they changing all their buildings from 6 stories now to 14 stories? That's a lot of people for that area, and I don't think the area can accommodate.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, just real quick, you know, the point that you raised with respect to 14-story buildings, I mean, people walking down in case of emergency, we do have other buildings in the city that are 14 stories and higher.
Yeah.
And same consideration would go for them. So
Yeah,
just
but
pointing that out.
they're not next to a rail line that can cause a major explosion. I mean, if that happens, I mean, I don't think any of us are actually safe in St. Boniface. So, but if you didn't have to run 14 stairs, floors of stairs, then
Okay, thank you. I just, again,
Yeah.
wanted to raise that point and just, we do have other buildings, including hotels or,
yes,
you know, whatnot that
Yeah,
have-
we do.
that are tall like that, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You.
All righty, I don't have anyone else registered in opposition to this application unless there is someone in the gallery that wishes to speak in opposition to the secondary plan amendment. And I do not have anyone registered for information. Looking at the gallery, is there anyone looking to speak for information? All righty, so at this point, I would recommend questions to the administration, followed by a rebuttal from the applicant.
So the first question that was raised there by Ms. Quick talked about water sewer impact of 800 additional units. I appreciate we don't have anyone here, for reasons unknown, from Public Works or Water and Sewer, but I also don't see anything in the report that indicates any concerns about water and sewer.
The background engineering studies submitted with the application are included in the appendix as background. And I believe the water and sewer study actually accommodated much more than 2,000. It was proof that you could do, I think it was 2,700 units there. So the capacity is there as far as sewer and water, at least according to the study. And then, of course, Public Works did look in depth on the traffic study, and that's why we had the recommended changes of 9 and 10 in Appendix C. It's to accommodate traffic in and out. But yeah, they were scrutinized heavily, for sure.
Okay. Any further questions for admin?
No. So again, in terms of water and sewer, it can accommodate 2,000 dwelling units, up from 600, up from 1,200. That won't be an issue in terms of sewer capacity.
According to the servicing study, no, it wouldn't be an issue, and our water and waste departments didn't raise an issue with the study.
And I don't know if you can comment on it, but school, I mean, my sense was Archwood School is actually far from full, which I think is the closest K-8 English school. I stand to be corrected on that, although the school division boundary gets tricky, as we learned at Riverside Estates, when people called to complain they could see the school, but unfortunately it wasn't in the LRSD, so we had to bus them, or I guess the school division had to bus them. So, but are we, I mean, I can't think of any application we've ever shot down due to school enrollment limitations.
Well, we do circulate, with secondary plans, we do circulate to the school divisions.
Okay,
So,
good.
You know,
That's potentially a question to the proponent, if they've looked at the schools in the area. They, you know, one of the two previous presentations, Dumoulin and Iman, had a kind of a shadow of all of the amenities in the adjoining area, so maybe we can ask that of the proponent.
Okay, so, but we did circulate this to LRSD and they didn't.
yeah, we always circulate to the school divisions. We don't often hear back from the school divisions, but we circulate to them.
Okay. All right, if there are no further questions for admin, then I think it's time for the proponent is able to speak in rebuttal.
That's correct.
How many years have we spent on this?
Windsor Park, Windsor?
Robert says I go first.
All right.
Okay, first of all, let's deal with the all buildings 6 stories to 14 stories is not the case. Can I bring up one of the slides from our presentation just so I can clarify? Is that allowed?
Sure, it wouldn't be presented.
Jackie, hoping you can bring up the one that shows the, just the overall development plan. It only applies to Block 1, Lot 1, and Lot 2. And Jackie can outline that. And the buildings will be the closest building possible, because we've also got a 100-foot setback off the railway line before you can hit a building. And then we've got the railway line, then we've got the development on the east side of Archibald, then we've got the width of Archibald. There are some single-family fronting on Archibald, so the closest is 150 meters to the building. And then to the south, it's over 400 meters. So that's the closest that any building could be. Anything else to the south, those are all remaining 6 stories, as we had promised the community, that they would be 6 stories. They remain 6 stories. All the ones that are outside of that sort of mustard yellow on the south side there, that light yellow on those buildings there, those are all remaining max 6 stories. Just the highlight in the middle. Yeah, we're keeping it as far away as possible, 150 meters from the ones on the west side of Archibald, and then 400 meters from the residences on the south side, south of the Paddington Yards. So that's for that. The developer is making all changes required to the off-site roads at his cost that are required. The toxicity of the air, soil, and water testing was done, and whatever they did find there, which was minimal, has been mitigated. So that's all done. The schools, they were contacted a lot in the beginning, in the first round of engagement, and then they were given, we had contacted all stakeholders from the previous engagement. And as James had said, they are automatically circulated, but we had circulated prior to that to them. We sent something around to all stakeholders, everyone that attended the original, I think we had 8 rounds of engagement the first time we went through this in 2020. So we had that, and they didn't come to the last one at all. And I know Robert had a call from one of them. He could probably speak to that.
When we originally did a study, they say they can handle about 200 students at Archwood because they're that low, but they just want us to give them what our anticipated units are going to be like the mix, 2, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 1-bedroom, if there's independent living, just because they want to see what the mix is going to be in there so they can actually forecast down the road. So we're just been in contact with them about forecasting for the, what we believe is going to be there for units. So I told them I would get back to them after we have our hearing to find out what our mix would be, so to have that, so.
I assume the nearest high school is, thank you to Council Chambers, because Spears is involved here at Windsor Park, Belleville would be the nearest high schools? Okay. Well, we know Windsor Park's actually challenged for enrollment, so, yeah.
We also have Louis Riel Arts and Technical Center that's nearby as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
High school, vocational high school. And
Again, I don't know what the capacity when Sage Creek has their schools built, how much that's going to alleviate, because, I mean, the earliest someone will be getting into this complex will be 18 months, 24 months from now. So.
Still waiting for the province to help us out there on the French immersion at Sage Creek, but that's a different matter. Okay.
More notes yet?
Yeah, I'm good.
And part of this smells with, you're talking about the notification. So, no, it's Rothsay back now it's Darling now.
Sorry, start all over again, please.
Sorry, the smell, like we're talking about the companies that create the smells, like, so there's Rothsay, but now it's called Darling. So they're directly east of us. So they're the ones that actually were, first of all, said they wanted us to have signs to warn people that there is smells in the area. And we actually, actually it's on the city's, somewhere on the city's website, a wind study showing that, I mean, that is directly east of us. So that is the least amount of winds comes to us is from the east. So again, it's more going south because I golf at Napa and I know which one, and I know it's the northeast wind because I smell that smell coming there, so.
Okay, fair point. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Is that time then, Madam Clerk?
It sure is. Motions would be appropriate now.
Well, we're in the unusual position that this is a very big ticket item and not in my ward and not in Councillor Chambers' ward.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, I did sit through what seemed like 9 hours with Councillor Ellard back in 2020 on this. So I know he had
So, do you
various
want me to
changes.
move, or-
Yeah, why don't you do it? Yeah, sure.
Okay. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the public service be concurred in and forward to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development. And
To interrupt you, Councillor Chambers, are we fully accepting the proposed amendments in Appendix C?
correct.
Okay, and Mr. Plett, I had sent you an email about item number 2.
Yeah, I've received, it's correct. It's, the sentence that's being struck out is correct. There's something that's odd in there, but it's all being struck out.
Okay, so in section, or in item number 2, the target for residential dwelling units within the planning area is approximately 1,200, stricken completely?
Completely out.
Okay, apologies, that was just a little unclear.
My supporting comments or reasons is that it does meet with the secondary plan to ask for more density. It's supported by, the ACG, the Water and Waste has indicated that they have the capacity. Public Works in terms of road design and how you ingress and egress is supported. There is more information with respect to trains and potential concerns that arise around emergency situations. So there are plans to mitigate instances where trains are passing by and an emergency situation arises. So with all of that, I feel that this development can move forward with the amended changes.
Yeah, I mean, leaving aside, we've had every item today, we've had talk about housing crisis and that doesn't justify a blanket approval of anything any developer asks for. If one accepts that verbiage, we don't really need to be sitting here. We just need a big rubber stamp at the planning department. So leaving aside that, Councillor Ellard certainly worked hard to get this thing going back in 2020. I think he would be supportive of this. I wish we'd had some of this in 2020 instead of the 8 or 9 hours we spent on fire chief testimony. And in any event, that seems to have been resolved through the TrainFo, or we sure hope it's been resolved because the public servants seem to think it's been resolved. So on we go. So yeah, I'm supportive of Councillor Chambers' motion here. So with that, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, that's carried. Madam Clerk, I believe that concludes that item.
Yeah, the committee has made a recommendation on this matter. It will proceed to council. No further representations are permitted. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
All right, before we move on to the main event here, at the bottom of our fight card, numbers 8 and 9, what did you want to quick?
Yeah, quick recess.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, we'll take 5 minutes and then we'll move on to the headline event here at number 8 and 9. Fade in. There we go. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We are on the items as referenced earlier, items 8 and 9, which is a consolidated hearing.
Right. Subdivision rezoning at 823 LeMay Avenue and land located at 35 de la Digue Avenue and 100 Villa Maria Place under DAS 9/2024, as well as file DAV 129-079-2024D, which is the variance. As an
Okay,
introduction.
before we hear any evidence,
Absolutely, yes.
put that on the record, before we open to delegations, we are obliged to have 2 people for quorum to hear any matter.
To have a majority, or half
Yeah.
plus 1.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The Chambers.
So, given recent media with respect to the property at 180 Creek Bend and the variance that was applied for, and the fact that I did not recuse myself from that vote, this is a different situation, but there has been allegations that my opinion is biased on this matter. As a result, I've reached out to seek legal advice to ensure that I am unbiased and am proceeding appropriately in the rules of council and the rules of integrity, and therefore at this point, with the legal advice not being ready for me to make a consideration, I am recusing myself in the best interest of this development and the best interest of the community, and we'll lay this matter over till our next committee meeting, which is when I will have the proper legal advice to either move forward or not. I guess not, in the sense that once I recuse myself, I can no longer hear.
Right, so are you going to move to adjourn it to get information, or are you choosing to recuse off that?
Adjourn to
Great.
adjourn to get the legal information that I need to make the proper decision.
Okay, so it sounds like then you would be putting forward a motion to adjourn the item to Friday, September 6th, 2024. That's at 10:30 a.m. in the council chamber, 510 Main Street. We haven't opened any representations, so representations would continue to remain open. this is plenty of time for me to get in contact with all of those who had registered to be able to let them know about this decision and the new date. That's where we're at with both the subdivision rezoning and the variance, it sounds to be.
Okay, so just before we vote on that, actually, we could have a vote and then I could still speak. We're not adjourned, right?
Not adjourned until we have the motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we'll have, so that's motion to adjourn to September.
Yeah, this is Friday, September 6th. This is after the prorogue for the summer. This is our next regularly scheduled Riel Community Committee, 10:30 a.m. here in this room, or via Zoom as well.
Okay, so we'll call the question on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's carried. Just a note to the public. I've sat up there, I've appeared before I was elected. I've been doing this 12 and a half years. We've certainly lost quorum before. We've had people recuse themselves. I don't think we've run into this particular constellation of things before, so apologies to all of you. It's been a long day. This is where it was scheduled on the agenda. So thank you for coming. I appreciate people feel passionately about this both ways. Yeah, it's a very exceptional circumstance to have no hearing at all. Yeah, it occasionally happens, but apologies, I guess, from the city of Winnipeg for having being unable to proceed today. But the matter remains before us, and thank you for your interest. And again, apologies for having to come down here today, and we're not able to proceed.
And if I could just add to that, thank you, Councillor Mays. And again, I realize it's taken up your entire day, but in the best interest of, again, the community and the developer, it's best that we have the right people in front to make the decisions. And, you know, I want to have a clear conscience at the end of the day. So thank you very much for your understanding.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn then from Councillor Chambers.
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, that's carried. We were done, right? We
We're
didn't have
done,
any
yeah.
business. Okay.